Yeah, did you walk that up the stairs or did you take the elevator?
I did. No,
Okay.
it's not that heavy.
Okay, nice to see you. Alex, how are you? Long time no see. Nice to see you. Thank you. Welcome. Matt wanted to know what?
Yeah. He's like, I know. It was like, it feels so funny.
Thank you.
You in your new house? I already saw her.
Hey, I saw your slide.
Very good.
Yeah, one time I grew it long enough to quote. I'm working on it. It got to be it was like 10 inches. No, I never it doesn't really work with earlier because it looks too big.
You could have a split vote. We could deadlock. We could deadlock.
Well, I need to get a cut because it's getting toward the hot time. Get it short. This might be as long as you see it.
Split vote, yeah.
I'll never go through it. I'm not sure.
Good point.
Not that good.
There she is. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our City Council meeting of March 24, 2026, an auspicious day, celebrating 150 years. We're still here. We're going to move right into our agenda, and I'll look to the clerk to call them, well, to do a roll call, please.
Mayor Dohring,
Here.
Vice Mayor Deasing,
Here.
Councilmember Barrick,
Here.
Councilmember Spadarato.
Here.
All right. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We are on to number 4 on our agenda, adoption of the agenda. Any changes, Mr. Clerk?
There are none.
All right, I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. On to adoption of the minutes. Mr. Bradley, any changes, corrections, notes?
No.
I'll look for a motion to adopt the minutes from March 10, 2026.
I make a motion to adopt the minutes.
There's a
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt the minutes from March 10, 2026. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. None, sorry. That motion passes unanimously. On to public forum. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters of municipal concern, not on the agenda during public forum. Each person's comment shall be limited to 4 minutes. Each person is entitled to speak on any non-agendized item only once at any meeting. Brief questions by council members for clarifications may be posed and answered, and council members may make requests that items be placed on future agendas. But in accordance with state law, no substantive discussion or action may take place unless and until the matter properly appears on the agenda. Before I open public comment, I do want to note that there are several comments. Ms. Covell made comments, Ms. Wheaton, Mr. Covell, Susan McWilliams, Lana Ivanoff, Mr. Mann made some, Chris Warner, and Celeste Neely made a few comments. All right, so we thank you for your comments, and I will open it to public comment if anyone wants to approach your city council and discuss something that is not on the agenda. Mr. McKelly, how are you?
I'm fine. Anthony McKelly, 1125 Cornella. I want to let the council know that Monday, 2 weeks ago, I finished the bocce covers at Crane Park. I raised $40,000. It's a free gift to the city, only because I don't like to play in the sun at bocce. And when I finished them 2 weeks ago, Monday, going to Central Valley, I noticed Public Works building forms in front of the high school, and then down on Salvastrini's. And I said, what are they doing? They're not supposed to vote till Tuesday night. But they did this. And I spent 6 months going through every committee in the city to build those bocce courts for the city. And then I remembered, oh, maybe the city manager had something to do with it. And then I remembered years ago he forgot to invest our money, $30 million, into an interest-bearing account, which cost $2 million what we'd have had today. And then maybe a few months later, he called Carrie Wheaton a cunt. And you got letters to all that. And 50 other people wrote letters to it. And I even went to him and I said, you and I have a problem, but I'm not going to venture into it because I think these 50 debtors, you're going to be gone. Well, no, now he does it again. And what's he say after he forgot to invest that $30 million? I'm sorry. And what did he do with this public art stuff? Oh, I thought we needed art in St. Helena. I've been here 75 years. That was a 150-year celebration today. I've never seen art in the 75 years I've lived here. He doesn't know what St. Helena is about. I'm sorry. So I hope this council gets enough backbone after the meeting tonight and says goodbye. And also, he should pay for all the jumping of the gun before you guys voted last Tuesday for all the money he spent in public works. That's my money, our money. And fill in all the hole at Lyman Park, all the things that have not been poured, fill those all in. And I know you guys have got that efficiency report that Jesse wrote last week in the Star. He was too kind to the city. I've read that report. You guys had it for months. You don't bring it to the agenda. And I hope you read the note that Mr. Anil sent to the people that did that report. Don't you talk to any city council people. You are forbidden for that. And that's in that report that you have. Also, the letter that he sent to the people saying you weren't supposed to investigate how we pay people here. That's not your prerogative. You guys commissioned that report. You know, I would be furious if a city manager told me as a city council to not talk to us. That's unreal. It's just wrong. Thank you.
Others wishing to approach your city council with 4 minutes of comment. Welcome.
Good evening, council members. My comment is in the form of a question, but I don't expect you to answer. My question is, why have you scheduled our city manager's review?
What is your name, please?
Katie Sample.
I knew who you are, but I just wanted to.
Katie Sample, 591 Stanton Drive.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Why have you scheduled the city manager's review prior to the release of the final, the completed report of the efficiency and business transformation study, when clearly the draft of the report is indicating some really, really serious issues? And it seems to me that for prudence and for transparency, that this review should be delayed until after you have seen and read the completed report with all the analysis and all of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? I haven't even responded yet, Mr. Belt. You're shaking your head. What, you have a question for
He asked you a question and you're not answering it. Why are you doing this before the final report comes out?
I think I laid that out on the agenda as I opened the comments, opened the public comment that we cannot entertain questions. We can refer questions to others and we'll get back to you on it.
I haven't heard you, well, my 4
That's
minutes has
been the
already
nature
started.
of public comment for all the years I've been here.
Would you start my clock again, please?
I'm not in control of the clock. Go ahead. Please. You have 4 minutes. I'm sure we're going to give you your 4
I got
minutes.
3 minutes and 22 seconds.
You have 4 minutes. We'll
My
make sure
wife
you have
and
4
I
minutes.
have moved to St. Helena in 1977. There's been very few things that I regret since living here. It's a wonderful town to live in. But I do regret a few things. And one of those things is, in 2012, I could have put in a water well, but I didn't. And I really regret that. I'm still stuck having to go through the mismanagement of our city's water enterprise for the last 20-some years. The second thing that I really regret is not turning in a complaint against Anil Camello when he talked to me the way he did at the water and wastewater meeting in 2023, in which time he came up to me. I came up to him when he was talking to 3 of my friends, and I went to introduce myself to him, and I went to shake his hand, and he says, "I know who you are." He says, "You stopped submitting those public records requests." And then it stopped. And then about a minute later, I'm talking to my friends again, and he turns to me, points to me in the chest and says, "Stop writing those public records requests." And my regret is that I never turned in a complaint against you because you were wrong, you were rude, and you were...
Mr. Belt,
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll calm down. But I
direct the comments to
I
council.
also told you, and you didn't do anything about it. What you did is you told me, go ahead and submit the public records request. That's all you said. I don't know whether anything was ever said to him or not. But to this day, I'm still angry about it. And the only reason he ever apologized to me was about 2 years later. And I asked him to apologize because he never initiated it. And finally, I did get an apology. But the man, I'm telling you, he is not in the right place as a city manager in this city. I still got 2 minutes left. Some of the things Anthony said that I was going to say, but in the efficiency study, the report reads how Mr. Camello tried to steer the consultants away from engaging the city council when conducting the study. In fact, he advised no meetings with the council were necessary during the study, with potential presentation to be for findings only after the conclusion. I don't understand that either. Why in the heck wouldn't he want you to be involved in the study? It just doesn't make any sense, except at the very end, he's just going to tell you. The other thing is, Ms. Kellogg was asked, and I have a great deal of respect for Mandy Kellogg and Erica. They both helped me a lot with my public records requests. But Ms. Kellogg was asked from the Blackbird study to provide salary information, and she didn't do it. And I know for sure that Mr. Comello told her not to. But later, they went ahead and they got the salary information, and it was confirmed by Mandy Kellogg. Now, why wouldn't Mr. Comello not want to have salaries brought up in the compensation study, in the efficiency study? To me, it makes all the sense in the world. So anyway, I'm not going to say anything more, but you guys need to get some courage and get rid of that man, okay?
Hi, Leslie Stanton, former librarian. I'm going to read a list of names of people who are more articulate, they're better written, more knowledgeable, they dig, they research. They're names that I hope you all read their letters on the agenda tonight. Elaine DeMann, Colleen Gillespie, Celeste Neely, Michelle Covell, Kelly Wheaton, Susan McWilliams, Lana Ivanoff, Charles Covell, Lisa Pelosi, Norm Manzer, Katie Sample, Jordan Coonrand, don't know how to say it, Coonrand, and John Pedersen. These are the people that speak for me, because often I don't know how to say it, or I don't know how to write it, or I don't know how to come up and address you. And I know there's many more like me in this town. And we appreciate the people that do speak out and speak for us. And I hope you read their letters. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. We absolutely do read the letters.
Hi, my name is Colleen Gillespie. I live at 10 Del Rio. This is my very first city council meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you. And I went to the Park and Recs meeting last week. And I'll tell you, next door, I think, has been a godsend for me. Not that I'm basing any of my opinions on what I read, but reading about what's going on within our city prompted me to start paying attention and to actually show up. I wrote 5 public comment letters between last night and this morning. That's how strong I feel about what is going on the wrong way in our town. So I guess I'm learning, so I think I can only address what's not on the agenda. So this will be I'm addressing what's going on in your closed session regarding Mr. Camillo's evaluation. I do not feel that he should retain his position here. I feel like just in the time that I started paying attention, between the money that was discussed here already, not gaining interest, that I don't even know how that could have been overlooked, the sidewalk fiasco with the gas line underneath, the water situation, there was many others. And like I said, this is just in the few weeks I've been paying attention. But I did have a one-on-one conversation last year with Mr. Camillo, because I had been hearing about how the town was broke. And I thought, how could that be? And he graciously, we had a meeting one-on-one. I thought it went great. One of the things that came up in that meeting was he had mentioned that this bonus that the council, I think it's the council, was going to be giving him. And he had stated he wasn't going to take it. And I thought that showed a sign of respect to the town. Well, apparently you did take it, or he did take it. I'm not supposed to address him, but he did take it. So to me, that's an out-and-out lie to me. So I can only base my opinions, and I'm not saying this articulately enough, but I can only base my opinions on what has gone on. The art installation and the process not being reviewed or even going through a process, there are several things in there that are cause for termination. And I think we need to stop it before it continues. And Mr. Mayor, I think it's kind of important that you look at the people that are addressing you. The last gentleman that was up here, if I could have filmed your body language, it looked like you had such disgust for that gentleman.
No, no, ma'am. I'm deeply concentrating. I'm listening to every word you're saying.
So there might be
Sometimes I have
some,
to look away in order to hear. That's just a learning disability that I have. I'm
okay, it
sorry.
wasn't looking away, it was facial expressions. So anyway, take that note, because we are all trying to be considerate, and we're showing up to be here as well. So I'm getting the hang of this, and I'm learning as I go. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a throat issue, and so I'm going to have somebody else finish reading my comment. Elaine DeMann, good evening. I want to focus specifically on several public records requests that were filed related to the Huther Art Project. This should have been a simple request to fulfill. The project was presented to you and to the public as a relatively small, straightforward effort, something that appeared on the consent calendar and was expected to move forward without much attention. So when a request was made for the agreement and related records, you would expect those documents to be easy to locate and provide. But instead, the city responded by saying it needed more time due to unusual circumstances and consultations with other agencies or departments. Why couldn't the city produce those records? The requests were made about 2 weeks ago, and by the time this request was responded to, some of the work had already been completed. Concrete had already been poured in public rights-of-way and private property, including school district property. So if that work was authorized, then there should already be written permissions from property owners, clear agreements, internal approvals, communications between the artist and city staff, and work orders directing public works crew to carry out that work. Those are basic standard records. So where are they? And if they can't be produced in a timely way, it raises a very uncomfortable possibility. Do they exist at all? Because if they don't, we're looking at a situation where concrete may have been poured on property not owned by the city without documented permission. And that's not just a paperwork issue. That potentially exposes the city to real consequences. The cost of removing that work, restoring the property, and even facing legal action. At a minimum, and what does that do for our relationship with the school district where we hold these meetings? At a minimum, it suggests a breakdown in process. At worst, it suggests that actions were taken before the necessary approvals were secured. Either way, this is not how public projects should be managed. The public deserves to know that before work begins, especially work involving physical construction, there are clear approvals, proper documentation, and accountability every step of the way. The fact that those records are not readily available is deeply concerning, and it deserves a clear explanation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you got your voice.
All right. Others? Ms. Whedon, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's short, one page, big 14, 16-point type. I'm an admirer of Mahatma Gandhi. He believed in government accountability not as a passive expectation of leaders, but as a sacred duty of every citizen to actively monitor and, if necessary, challenge the state. He believed that because a government's power is derived from the silent support of its citizens, those citizens are personally responsible for every act the government commits. I'd like to read a quote from Gandhi's Young India. Quote, "I have often been charged with having an unyielding nature. I've been told that I would not bow to the decisions of the majority. I have been accused of being autocratic. I have never been able to subscribe to the charge of obstinacy or autocracy. On the contrary, I pride myself on my yielding nature in non-vital matters. I detest autocracy. Valuing my freedom and independence, I shall equally cherish them for others. I have no desire to carry a single soul with me if I cannot appeal to his or her reason." Close quote. Here is my appeal to your reason. For too long, the governance of St. Helena has been fear-based and not for the good of the people. It is argued that this is to prevent costly lawsuits or to save the city money or to protect staff morale. A financial audit of the past few years would show fear-based decision-making has cost the city dearly. Like gamblers at the craps table, losing on bad bets, and then making more bad bets in the hopes of turning it around. It's never too late to say no to fear and yes to the people of St. Helena. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tamara Sorensen, St. James Drive, St. Helena. So these remarks are submitted for the record in my written comment that I, excuse me, my voice, that I submitted earlier today and reflect recent City Council actions, decisions, and findings of the independent Blackberg report. The most important key takeaway from the Blackberg report isn't just what it says, but it's what it confirms. That the absence of data, the absence of plan, the erosion of trust are not perceptions, they are conditions. Conditions that residents have been raising for quite some time and too often were dismissed or discouraged from doing so. In some cases, they were even made to feel as though their concerns were unwelcome. The report makes it clear that without data, there is no strategy. And without strategy, there's no accountability. And accountability is the only outcome residents will accept at this stage, because anything less would simply reinforce the condition that brought us here. And when that is the foundation, continuing to make decisions or advance projects simply raises a very simple question. What exactly are those decisions being based on, and where, in fact, does the authority lie? There are also moments that reflect something deeper. During a public meeting discussing health, fire, and safety matters, communications between leadership on taxpayer-funded devices reflected a level of informality that doesn't match the seriousness of the responsibility to which they have been beholden. That's not about personalities, it's about judgment. And judgment is the foundation of leadership. So here we are, where the conditions are no longer unclear and no longer debatable, which leads us to the questions before this council, not whether something needs to change, but whether the current leadership structure, both staff and council, is willing and able to be the one to change it. Because when these conditions were known, or should have been known, the path forward is no longer an explanation. It is accountability. And in some cases, that requires new leadership, and here it's difficult to reach any other conclusion but that. When trust has been compromised and cannot be effectively restored, when sound judgment has been diminished to a level that no longer reflects the responsibility of the role, as reflected both in the report and in the recent conduct, maintaining the current structure only deepens that concern. The path forward is not preservation. It is targeted leadership change where it is clearly warranted. And with that, I'm happy to say I have another minute. I am going, much to your dismay, I know. I'll keep it brief. So this whole situation, since I've been coming to these meetings since January, as an outsider looking in, for months, residents have come to this microphone pointing out that something was wrong, only to be dismissed and stonewalled. They were told there was a plan, a process, a strategy, but the third-party analysis has finally acted as the child in the parable of the emperor's new clothes. And I think we all know how that ended. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Michelle Lou Cavell. I'm a resident, not representing any other roles. Perhaps there is something we're still waiting for. It sounds like there is a deliverable, number 4, that is in the works. I understand that report is not final, and it may be premature to fully digest the content and draw conclusions. However, the draft, in its current state, is not a surprise. It reflects what many residents have been saying for some time. The report identifies widespread structural issues and a severe lack of management and operational systems. On page 33 of Deliverable 2, it states, quote, "There is no strategic plan, so the ability to communicate solutions and timelines for addressing the problems is impossible. Therefore, residents see the problems and have no information from the city about their magnitude, begin to speculate, and have no strategic plan to affirm the city is doing something about them. Clearly, the residents' lack of trust in the city government is rooted in these issues," end quote. We sound like just frustrated residents, and in fact, it is because of the lack of response from the city over the many years that has caused this frustration. Final or not, this report confirms the systemic failures many have been voicing. As noted in my resubmitted public documents and new ones, residents have tried to speak up as the City Council has asked us to do, and we are. The city wants more engagement from its community. Here we are, but the problem is the listening part, and ultimately the following through part. The glass is neither the glass is neither half full nor half empty. The glass is broken, and this draft report makes that clear. Over the past several years, what many of us have witnessed, and I have experienced firsthand, is a pattern of saving face and protecting the institution. But years of protecting a broken system, focusing only on the positives, and suggesting that we need a fresh coat of paint have allowed the cracks to deepen. What we need now is to stop hiding the issues, to stop diminishing resident concerns, because gaslighting, whether subtle or overt, along with intimidation and attempts to delegitimize and discredit residents, has created a divide that many in this community feel, a divide that keeps us from being able to move forward. Today, on St. Helena's 150th birthday, I stand here for St. Helena, for a town built on the backs of agrarian founders, on hard work, on the foresight to create a small community grounded in strong values, community, family, and accountability. That is what sets St. Helena apart. Whether I stand here alone or with 100 people, I stand to help lift the cloud that many feel is over this town and to bring more light. This draft report brings light. It brings transparency, and it may be one of the most important steps forward we've seen. Now we have a clearer understanding of the status quo, and as the mayor said recently, we need to do better. So I ask, what is our strategic plan? Because we need leadership to help us move out of status quo, and that leadership must come from the very top. To protect an institution that is broken is to allow the problem to continue. There is cause if you are willing to see it. My question is, do you see it?
Thank you.
Good evening, Lisa Pelosi, 1110 Childs Avenue. I can say ditto to many things that are been said already, but I too feel like we're at some crossroads that really definitely pull on my heartstrings. But I've submitted a public comment, so I'm just going to condense a little bit for the purpose of being at the podium. I also want to state that I'm speaking as a resident and a community member, not as on behalf of the St. Helena Unified School District, because I sit on the governing board there. As I said, I'm here tonight to express serious concern regarding the city manager's conduct and the deliberate breakdown of established policy and process. In the recent public art matter, staff were directed to move forward with installations before formal approvals and before full financial transparency was provided. That is not a minor oversight. It is a clear violation of process. The project budget also increased to $20,000 during the March 10th meeting, raising further concerns about fiscal discipline and oversight. At the March 16th Parks and Rec Commission meeting, it was publicly acknowledged that key procedural steps were skipped, including compliance requirements for historical sites. This confirms that what occurred was not accidental, it was directed. The broader concern is simple. If process can be bypassed so easily in this case, where else has it happened? Additionally, I have personally experienced the city manager's unprofessional and dismissive demeanor. His conduct during a prior phone conversation was combative and inappropriate, and unfortunately, others in the community have indicated that this is consistent behavior. That is unacceptable for a public-facing leadership role. The city manager is accounted to the city council. That accountability must be actively exercised. Right now, it appears it is not. I urge the council to address these issues directly, restore adherence to policy, and reestablish clear checks and balances. The community deserves nothing less, and his performance evaluation should not merit your praise or high marks. Our city manager is not serving us or you. I stand with other community members in asking that a change occurs in the position of city manager. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, going once. All right, I'm going to close public comment and we'll move on. Thank you for the comments, both orally and in writing. All right, we're on to agenda item 7, reports by staff and city council, future agenda items, and AB 1234 reports.
Good evening, Mayor. I have a couple things that we'll need to announce. I'll turn it over to Assistant City Manager Leach to make some announcements about the water debacle this weekend, and last weekend, I should say, and want to turn to City Clerk Bradley to provide some information about upcoming system changes.
You?
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and council members and public. We just want to express thank you and gratitude to the public for conserving water this weekend. The press release and new social media kind of cause for concern was issued on Friday as a result of a chlorine pump that failed. And so the pump was repaired, but then the dynamic of filling tank 2, which is one of our main sources of storage in town, we were releasing more water out of tank 1 that historically has led to increased discolored water. I think what we observed through Grapevine over the weekend that we only received 1 complaint. So if others do have more complaints, please make sure that you're submitting it on Grapevine so we can document locations and confirm the status of that. So other than that, systems are continuing to operate as normal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leach. Mr. Bradley?
Yeah, 2 things. First, we have the Community Academy starting April 15th. It's a 6-week no-cost program. It'll be Wednesdays from 5:30 to 7:30, and applications are due next Tuesday, March 31st, and they're available on our website, cityofsthelena.gov/academy. And second, we are transitioning away from our current agenda management platform to a new one. That transition will hopefully begin tomorrow with links on our website. If you were subscribed to get agenda notifications prior to the beginning of this month, all those notifications and emails are getting transferred over automatically. So nothing really to do other than you might see a new email address sending those agendas out to you. And this will also change how we accept public records requests and help us to better manage those as well.
Mr. Bradley, how many applications have we received to date for the academy?
It is around 5 at the moment, so the more the merrier.
The more the merrier. Yep. Encourage folks to sign up for that. Talk to others who've gone through the academy. It's a worthwhile endeavor. Folks have learned a lot and complimented the staff in prior academies. A lot to learn about our city. All right. Anything else, Mr. Camello? Right. Okay. We are on to item 8 on our agenda, presentations and public recognitions. We have a few visitors. And the first one is 8.1. It's a presentation of the U.S. Congressional Record Recognition honoring the city's Sesquicentennial. I'll probably have to say that a few times tonight, Mr. Camello. Sesquicentennial from Congressman Mike Thompson by his field representative, Anna Chouteau. Welcome, Ms. Chouteau. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much. Do you want to have the video from the Congressman first? Or if you're pulling that up, I will. Okay. Thank you so much. So I am here as the representative of Congressman Mike Thompson. He did the highest honor that he could for your 150th, our 150th. Everyone in the community is celebrating the city of St. Helena. This is a major milestone to reach. I know that he would want to be here. He had to be in D.C. He was on a very early flight this morning. This city is where he was raised and born. He's a part of our community. He went to our public schools. He recently was speaking at the 8th grade class, and it was really cool to see him look up at the athletes that were up on a wall.
Mayor,
knowing
council
that he
members,
was,
I'm sorry I can't be with you.
That's all right. Was
Oops.
at that school himself. But what's
That was
significant
kinda eerie.
about he can hear me. He's listening.
Sorry.
The congressional record statement. What's important about this is that he reads it on the House floor. And as long as there is a United States of America, those words will be kept and there will be a record of it. And so we worked to collect information about the city, and I won't read all of it, I'll just read the beginning that says, Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the city of St. Helena on the 150th anniversary of its official establishment as a municipality, and to recognize its rich history, community spirit, and enduring role as the heart of the Napa Valley.
Mayor, council.
This celebration honors the generations of residents, civic leaders, and organizations that have shaped the city's unique character, agricultural heritage, vibrant culture identity, and forward-looking community values. When I think about the city of St. Helena, I've been so grateful to raise my family here. So many of you sitting up here and who work here and also live in here, we run into each other. We have Nimbus, we have Cameo, we have our public library, we have the Seroptimists, we have our firefighters that show up at the football games. You see them with the stands crowded. I grew up in Healdsburg. That's not normal. Other places don't have those stands full and as vibrant as we do. It really is this incredible community. And I know we have challenges now more than ever that we're all facing. And I just really feel that it's important to honor this moment. So thank you for letting the Congressman do that and me on his behalf. He did record a video since he wasn't able to be here in person.
Thank you, Anna. We can play that video, Mr. Bradley. Be great.
Mayor, council members, I'm sorry I can't be with you in person today, but work has me in Washington for legislative votes. But happy birthday, St. Helena. It's an honor to celebrate a century and a half of St. Helena's rich history, strong community spirit, and enduring role as the heart of our Napa Valley. Today's celebration recognizes the generations of residents, civic leaders, and organizations who've come together to shape our city's unique character, agricultural heritage, vibrant cultural identity, and our community values. Our history is important. The city of St. Helena was officially incorporated on March 24th, 1876. Since then, our city has grown from an agricultural settlement to a lively hub for wine production, hospitality, and community life. I couldn't be prouder to be a St. Helena native. This city is where I was born, grew up, raised my family, and still live today. And I believe there's no better place to call home. Thanks to everyone in our town who makes St. Helena such a wonderful place. I look forward to continuing our work together to keep St. Helena strong.
All right. Thank you for that. Excellent. Thank you to the Congressman. Thank you,
I'll
Anna.
present it to you, Mayor.
Be great. I'll come your way. I'll come your way. All right. Photo? Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Tracy. So we have another one. Excuse me, let me get in front of my mic. This is a presentation by California State Assembly resolution, a presentation of a California State Assembly resolution authored by Majority Leader Cecilia Aguiar-Curry, District 4, recognizing the city of St. Helena on the occasion of its 150th anniversary. Tracy Crumpin, District Director, how are you? Welcome.
So good. And you pretty much did my job, so I guess I can sit down now.
Thank you.
This resolution, though, I just want to go ahead and make an amendment that this resolution is both signed by my boss, Majority Leader, as well as Senator Christopher Cabaldon.
Cool. Thank you.
We usually try to tag team like this. So if you see one, you'll probably see the other. And we just really want to be here to congratulate and celebrate the city of St. Helena and just the vibrancy and just the community support. I was born and raised in Vallejo, so while it was only 30 miles away, it was worlds away. Coming up here in the 70s as a kid, and just the feeling of community and the civic engagement. And it was just magical as a kid. And you really have something special here. And I live in Napa now, and not taking anything from Napa, but St. Helena is the heart of Napa County. And we're just here to celebrate and to honor everybody here and to thank everybody. And on behalf of Assemblymember Cecilia Aguiar-Curry, here's to 150 years, and here's to another 150 years.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alex Pater, Office of Senator Christopher Cabaldon. Thank you for being here. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. But as a mayor of over 20 years of West Sacramento, I know he would just want to say happy birthday, 150 years, major accomplishment, and also would like to thank the city council. It's not an easy job, and there's always room for improvement. But the city is doing very well. All things regarding. It's a very proud community. It's a community of people that care. I often, when I hear about people in St. Helena, one of the first things they tell me is how long they've lived here, how many generations, and you don't get that kind of community connection and care and love in every community that we have in Senate District 3. So again, happy birthday, congratulations. And then I'll just read the last resolve that Assembly members Cecilia Aguiar-Curry and Senator Christopher Cabaldon, that they congratulate the people of the city of St. Helena, and they celebrate the 150th anniversary of its incorporation, point with immense pride to the many exceptional opportunities provided by the individuals fortunate enough to call St. Helena home, and extend their sincere best wishes for the city's continued growth and prosperity for years to come. Let's give a round of applause to St. Helena.
Thank you to the senator. Thank you to the majority leader. Appreciate you being here. I'll come your way because I have a couple more proclamations to read. Thank you. With you.
How about if you get in the middle?
I will.
Okay.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Yep. Thank you. Got it? Am I there? We there? Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. The city has its own Sesquicentennial Proclamation. And I know that the staff enjoyed putting the word sesquicentennial in this proclamation at least 6 times, to my chagrin, but sometimes I get a little tongue-tied, but bear with me. All right. City of St. Helena Proclamation commemorating the Sesquicentennial 150th anniversary of the city of St. Helena. Whereas long before the founding of the city of St. Helena, the land was home to the Wapo people and other indigenous peoples who lived in deep connection with the natural environment and whose enduring cultural legacy continues to shape and enrich the region. The city of St. Helena was founded March 24, 1876, and in 2026 celebrates 150 years of rich history, heritage, and community. Whereas the Sesquicentennial marks a significant milestone honoring the vision, perseverance, and contributions of the city's founders, early settlers, and generations of residents who have shaped St. Helena into the community it is today. Whereas over the past 150 years, St. Helena has grown into a vibrant and renowned community in the heart of the Napa Valley, known for its agricultural heritage, world-class wineries, historic character, and strong sense of community. Whereas the city values the preservation of its unique history and cultural identity while embracing thoughtful growth, sustainability, and innovation for future generations. Whereas the Sesquicentennial provides an opportunity to celebrate St. Helena's legacy through community events, educational initiatives, and civic engagement that bring residents, businesses, and visitors together. And we've been seeing that over the last week. Whereas the City Council desires to honor the past, celebrate the present, and inspire the continued vitality and success of the city of St. Helena. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Paul Jamison Dohring, Mayor of the City of St. Helena, and my council colleagues, do hereby proclaim 2026 as the Sesquicentennial year of the City of St. Helena. And another 50 to go. We also have another proclamation. We're at the end of the month, but we have a proclamation celebrating National Women's History Month, March 2026. Whereas in 1978, Women's History Month began as a celebration in Santa Rosa with the Education Task Force of the Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women planning and executing a Women's History Week celebration. Since 1987, the United States has recognized March as National Women's History Month to celebrate the achievements of women, recognize the ongoing pursuit of equality, and inspire future generations. Whereas, as community leaders, elected officials, educators, doctors, scientists, winemakers, child care providers, community organizers, realtors, nonprofit directors, engineers, judges, lawyers, artists, architects, musicians, and more, women power our economy and lead our community. As first responders and military service members, they stand watch over our lives and liberties. As innovators, entrepreneurs, and essential workers, they represent the very best in their fields. Whereas the city of St. Helena was fortunate to have its first female mayor, Greta Erickson, from 1974 to 1976. The city has been privileged to have several women in top leadership roles, including former city managers Bonnie Long and Jennifer Phillips, Public Works Director Erica Smithies, City Clerk Cindy Shavopoulos, Library Director Chris Crichton, Community Development Director Maya DeRosa, Assistant City Manager Dr. April Mitz, current Administrative Services Director Mandy Kellogg, and current Community Services Director Ashley Sylvester. And whereas the city of St. Helena honors the visionary women and girls whose leadership, resilience, and achievements have helped strengthen our nation and our local community. Now, therefore, I, Paul Dohring, Mayor of the City of St. Helena, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2026 as National Women's History Month in the City of St. Helena and encourage all residents to recognize and celebrate the lasting contributions of women in our community and throughout our nation. Congratulations. And a special shout out to my mom. Okay, onward. All right, let me get my bearings. Thank you all for visiting. All right, we are on now to the Finance Committee's status report. Welcome. Mr. Warner, thank you for being here, and thank your team for being here. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm Chris Warner. I am your acting chair of the Finance Committee, and we're going to hear a little bit about the status of our work for you. But first, I want to take a minute. Why don't we go to the next slide? This is a pretty extensive agenda, but because I know you have a very full agenda, we're going to move through this agenda pretty quickly. We're going to have some presenters from our members here, and we'll get done and then open it up for questions. And we are just beginning. Yes? Okay, close stuff. Very good. Next slide. I want to remind you how we got here and how we're moving forward with what you asked us to do. You established the Finance Committee in 2024 and 2025 pretty much with the direction that we act as an independent advisory committee to the City Council. And I want to emphasize independent and advisory. We don't make decisions for you, but we have the ability to provide recommendations to improve the financial processes and the fiscal integrity of the city, and that's exactly what we're doing. The other part that I want to mention is we have had great choices for our members. Collectively, we are all volunteers, but collectively our members have literally multiple decades of experience in financial professions, fiscal matters, law, engineering, et cetera. And one of the things that I really value in our committee is how collegial and how every single member of our committee has contributed to our work, and we're working very well. The other part of our organization you're going to hear tonight with our status reports is that we've organized ourselves around several topics that you directed us, along with city staff, to follow and pursue, and we do it by subcommittees. We have members on subcommittees. They go out and they work with our city staff. I want to mention in particular Mandy Kellogg and Joe Leach, who have devoted an incredible amount of time supporting our Finance Committee with data requests, with information, and with their knowledge and expertise. It's been very collaborative and very cooperative, so that's part of it. And we have 5 subcommittees, and you have on, if you go to the next slide, this is who we are. And you'll notice that we have the multiple subcommittees on particular topics. You're going to hear a status on each of these subcommittees tonight. And again, you'll see that we have embedded with us city staff supporting us every step of the way. Next slide, please. This is an important slide because you may think that you want us to come up with a final report and that we still have some time to come up with that report. But I wanted to tell you how much progress we've already made even before we provide a final report. And I'm going to go through this very quickly because our final report is going to follow this outline in terms of methodology and key assumptions. First of all, we're going to cover the general fund only, not water and wastewater. That's something separate, and you will manage that separately and deal with it separately. We're going to use a baseline of the fiscal 2026 mid-year adopted budget subject to recommended adjustments that the committee may make. And again, these are recommendations that are advisory only. Our forecast period will be 5 years because that's what we think is the most credible way. If we went much beyond that, it would be very difficult and uncertain. 5 years, fiscal 27 to 2031. Now, this is an important slide, a bullet point, and I credit our committee members as well as Council Member Barack for coming up with this. We had to come up with a way to categorize spending in the city and not just lump everything together. And what we came up with is we have classified all the general fund expenditures as compliance related, that is expenditures required by law, service level, that is expenditures that we need to make to maintain our service levels or improve them, and then finally aspirational types of expenditures, which are not necessarily public safety. We're not talking about fire or police or water. We're really talking about those things we want to wish to do if we had the funds for it. Those 3 categories you're going to see in the final report all the way across all of our subcommittees. We are not making any assumptions on new revenues. That'll be up to you. So our assumptions are status quo on revenues. We're maintaining the reserve policy. We're doing a compensation review, as you requested us to do, based on classification and compensation studies with efficiency and cost-saving adjustments that we may recommend to you. But again, it's your decision to make. The status report also includes this set of principles, findings, and budget forecast recommendations on methodology. Now, we've heard tonight about the efficiency study. That study final report is not available yet, but I can pledge to you that our committee is going to review that final report in detail. We're going to evaluate it, and we'll provide our independent assessment of it for your use and benefit. Again, we're just advisory. Also, the fiscal 2025 audited financials, that is end of June 30th of last year, are not yet available. Those are very essential for us to make some judgments in terms of expenditure trends and forecasts. Our final report will include an evaluation of those fiscal 25 audited financials. And the final report will identify budgeting principles and assumptions used to forecast 2027 fiscal year budgeted expenses and future general fund budgets. So now I'd like to turn it over to members of our committee, first Greg Dolly, who will talk about the first topic, first subcommittee, that's dealing with unfunded accrued pension liability. And as I said, once we get done with all the reports, we'll open up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner, and for your service. Mr. Dolly, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service, too.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Greg Dolly. Along with Rick Garber, we are your unfunded liability subcommittee. Over the past 6 months, we have been joined by Councilmember Barak and Director Kellogg, who have provided their expertise and invaluable insights as we've gone through this 6-month process. Also on the team is our consultant from Bartel & Associates, who specializes in this area. Our task was to identify a range of appropriate additional discretionary payments, ADPs, to de-risk our exposure to CalPERS. By de-risk, we mean increasing the overall level of funding as a percentage of total liability and match the growth of annual increases in our required expenses, and manage those over time and have a source of funds for that. More precisely, we are looking to drive the funding level into the 80% range. Today, it sits at 74% based on the UIL balance as of 2024. That's a low by any standard. We think having that balance in the mid to high 80s is the appropriate risk level. We're also looking to raise $150,000 to $200,000 a year, which has been the run rate on the added growth to the required annual payments. So we're trying to fill those gaps to provide stability. The status right now, we are probably 7 days away from a draft analysis with recommendations to the Finance Committee. We're probably 14 days away from the Finance Committee's review and final approval, providing a range of ADP spending that we would recommend in the deficit schedule. A couple things to note. As Chris mentioned, we are analyzing the general fund. Currently, 80% of our liability to CalPERS is held by the general fund. 20% is held by water and wastewater. We are not looking at water and wastewater at this point. Our recommendations will be relative to the general fund. The second thing to just make a point of is that this discretionary payments is not new. Probably a lot of you are familiar with the fact that from 2020 to 2023, the city was making discretionary payments over and above the required payments. In total, over that 4-year period, the city funded $1.2 million, or roughly $300,000 a year, in additional discretionary payments, and for various reasons that was suspended. We will likely be north of that number in our ranges, but at this point we have not run that review through the Finance Committee, and at the appropriate time we will be coming out with those numbers. Next slide. The next subcommittee is the CIP review and analysis that really gets divided into two components. One is streets, which includes sidewalks and storm drains. The other is buildings, which I think we have included equipment replacement in that category. The same subcommittee is for both, including myself, Gary Rose, and Chris Warren. Joe Leash and Mandy both have been helpful and essential through this process. I'll start with the street component and then hand off to Gary. The headline takeaway for us is as follows. After reviewing sources and uses of funds and discussing with Joe, we find no basis for tapping additional money for the general fund. Accordingly, we will make we will not be making an impact on the deficit as it relates to street maintenance, sidewalk maintenance, and storm drain repair and new projects. Looking at the sources, the city draws a maximum of about $2.7 million annually under measures U and T to cover these expense items. The city's copay, or what is officially called maintenance of effort, adds an additional $300,000. So the city has essentially $3 million to spend on streets, sidewalks, and storm drains on an annual basis. Analyzing the uses of fund and the work plan with Joe, the level of funding allows us to achieve a 70 PCI, pavement conditions index, on street conditions, likely achieved by fiscal 2028. It allows us to perform all ordinary repair and maintenance on sidewalks, and it allows us to perform storm drain maintenance and upgrades like on Oak Street. For context on street PCI, the city hit a low in 2022 of 48. After 3 years, the city has raised that index quite considerably to 62. Our cohort of cities like St. Helena averages 57. Joe projects we will achieve the 70 by fiscal 2028. I think I have that about right. Three caveats to the no additional funding conclusion that we're coming to. One is the city adopts a 70 PCI as the appropriate standard. If the city goes above that standard, we would probably argue that we would need to look to the general fund for additional funding. The second is that available measure UNT resources along with the MOE are not diverted, either by emergency or priorities or other items that come up that get in front of street repairs and sidewalks. So we're making the assumption that those funds don't get diverted away from this purpose. And then finally, the third caveat is that that we have no surprises with storm drain costs. New overflow requirements, I think Joe has pointed this out to us, are at this point not well documented and may require new capital. Joe is recommending $100,000 a year as a contingency, and our subcommittee is currently reviewing that item. And what we are excluding, as Chris mentioned, are those items that we consider aspirational. Those would include new roads, new bridges, new revamped pedestrian crossings, and for anything that's not related to public health and safety, we view these generally in that category of aspirational spending. So now I'll turn it over to Gary Rose.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Gary Rose, and I'm on the CIP subcommittee, and as Greg mentioned, he is also on that committee as Chris Warner. I'm just glad I wasn't on the unfunded liability subcommittee. I can tell you right now that was a
Me too.
That was a heavy lift, and is continuing to be a heavy lift. It turns out this one is also kind of a heavy lift in and of itself, mainly from the standpoint that the data that we have is, well, the data is pretty easy. How much we've spent is virtually nothing on maintaining our buildings. There are some emergency funds that have been spent, but there's been nothing scheduled as far as scheduled building maintenance in the past. There was a report that was done or finished in 2018 It was a very, very comprehensive report. It covered all of the buildings within St. Helena, and there were recommendations, and all in all, it was tens of millions of dollars of recommended expenditures that would need to be done to bring our buildings up to an acceptable standard. But we determined a lot of those were also in the aspirational category, since in reality, there was no way we were going to be able to put that kind of money together to do some of those items. So the trick then, or not a trick, but our strategy was to really look for the things back to the three categories. Do we have anything that's required by law, ADA requirements, those types of things? So we put those in a bucket. The next thing is just service level. What do we need to do to maintain the building so they can still be usable? The aspirational are not going to be included in the report other than just a mention of it and possibly dollars shown there, but will not affect the general fund from that point. So that was the 2018 study. We'd had just recently a near-term preliminary inspection completed for the fire department, the library, and the Carnegie building, which we sorted out as being the three buildings out of the group of buildings, not counting City Hall, since that's a leased building, are the ones that we really use the most. And so that report was done by a home inspection company. It was very enlightening to read the report, but there really wasn't anything that we could determine from that report that would give us an idea of what costs would be and when they should come into effect. So the City Hall lease renegotiation with Napa Community College may add capital cost obligations, but at this point in time, because there's no definitive plan for that, there's nothing we can do as a subcommittee to recommend what to do. There was a third-party preliminary City Hall inspection of the current City Hall, and again, it just kind of pointed to some of the problems associated with the building, not a lot of deep analysis. So the budgeted amounts potentially are influenced by one other item that just came up that we discussed in the last committee meeting, and that is we've got several funds, a civic improvement fund, we've got a fire department equipment fund, we have an equipment replacement fund, and those funds are sitting there with quite a bit of money in them. So the question was asked, is there any money available in those? And I think it's been asked of other councils as well. Is there money in those that really could be spent on some of the things that need to be done for buildings and vehicles? And we've heard a lot about, well, no, we really haven't spent money on that. And my question was, what do we need to do to get a yes? So do we need to ask a different question or ask the question in a different way? It's easy to get a no answer, but can't we ask the question in such a way, can we spread it out enough, get the question broad enough that they say, yes, you can spend that money? We're still waiting for that information. So I'm here to tell you I don't have any numbers to give you, but we're very close. Once we get a few of the background numbers, we're very close to recommending something that we think should be spent and added to sinking funds. It's something that we have not used in the near past. So we need a sinking fund with a 5-year cumulative building repair budget, and we need the same thing on funding for vehicles and equipment. So when we get those numbers, we are able to put those together really quite rapidly. We've done quite an analysis of the report from 2018. We've got a lot of data on what we've spent and what they've recommended. So from that data, we'll be able to put a number that we think should go into these sinking funds on an annual basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Thank you for your service.
Council, Mayor, City Manager, good evening. So the subcommittee I was on with Rick Garber and George Schisler, which I don't think either of them are here, but anyway, it's been an interesting, the class and comp study, which I think Aaron actually was the one that asked for that originally, which was a great idea because we definitely needed to get our hands around compensation because there's been a lot of different talk about whether we're underpaid, overpaid, et cetera, et cetera. So it's much more complicated than I think the public would think. Certainly more complicated than I thought. It definitely class and comp study goes about analyzing compensation and comparing compensation in a way that's very different than how I did in private industry for 40 years. And it has its own impacts on our compensation as well as the next city's compensation and the city after that. It kind of has this Ponzi scheme going on at some level. It's quite nuanced, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details here. We are in the middle of drafting our report. We still have a lot of open items that we've requested that we think are necessary to really have a full understanding of one's compensation and how that compares to other agencies that are in the study. As well as we have some concerns about some of the agencies that are even included in the study because they really aren't places where we ever recruit anyone from, and they have their own sets of impacts on the comparable compensation. So we're close, but as I said, we do have some open items that we're looking for, and there's some new items even just today that we sort of tripped upon that we're trying to have a better understanding of how it actually fits into the analysis and affects the measure of compensation overall of agencies compared to St. Helena. So we're working there, but we're close. We're certainly very close. And then to tag along with that is the efficiency and transformation study, which has a broad look into, I would say, the org structure and how that impacts the future of St. Helena as far as positions and managers versus non-managers, and do managers even manage anybody? Did we hire managers at that level because we thought we needed to pay people a certain wage? It's pretty complicated. That's another, I guess I'm using that word over and over, but it is. And it's also, it's a sensitive subject that we all have to be concerned with the sensitivity. Obviously, you're talking about people's positions, you're talking about their career development, you're talking about their compensation. And at the end of the day, all that rolls up to impacts their family. So you do have to be aware of that. But we have received just recently the draft of the efficiency and transformation study. The subcommittee hasn't started looking at that yet. We did have a presentation, and it was fairly eye-opening. But we need to go about it in a methodical way, and in a careful way, and come out of our analysis with some very clear suggestions to City Council on how they may better an employee's situation and better the community situation. So that's where we're at with both of those items in that subcommittee. And then there's a cost allocation review, which was performed. Mr. Warner is on that with me, and Mandy spends a lot of energy on that one. Actually, Mandy spends a lot of energy on a lot of things. So I would love to, yeah, that's.
It'd be, just let me interrupt for a second. So I think most of the public may not understand what we mean by cost allocation. I do, but could you just briefly, in a sentence or two,
Sure.
explain what we're talking about with the different funds?
Yeah, it's not
helpful.
funds. There's different, I guess, cost centers is the best way to put it.
Cost centers.
Departments. And so certain departments, Well, in general, I mean, all the employees are really employees of the city of St. Helena, and they roll through the general fund. But those employees, as well as some of the, the computers and certain infrastructure and equipment, it benefits and is used in the water and wastewater enterprises. So we need to allocate some of the costs that sort of roll through, they roll through the general fund. We need to allocate that to water and wastewater because they don't have their own employees, they don't have their own payroll, they don't even have their own checking accounts, I don't think. So there's even an allocation of interest earnings and whatnot that happens. So what you're doing is you're just making sure that everybody, whether it's a department which is being supported by, say, the finance and accounting department, which has they perform the receivables function for water and wastewater. They perform the payroll function for all departments. So then some of those services are allocated to either other departments and/or they're allocated to water and wastewater. Without going into too much detail.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
I know you can really get messy here. So anyway. So the city embarked on a new study, which I think they do every few years. I don't know, Mandy. I think every few years. Anyway, and the committee received the initial report. We had some concerns with the initial report. We thought maybe some of the allocation methods, the base that was being used for the allocation, maybe needed to be different or changed slightly. And so we had then a follow-up meeting with Mandy and the consultant, and we discussed all those, and I think Chris and I got to a pretty good spot that we thought we were comfortable with where it's going. Well, what you don't know is that there's this massive Excel file that has many, many tabs associated with it to allocate all these monies and funds and everything all over, and it's quite complicated. So they've now updated that, and we received the updated numbers and a quick summary and this Excel file sort of handed to Chris and I, and I'm like, I need the narrative associated with the cost allocation study in order to follow, to make sure that what we ended up finally doing is what Chris and I thought was a better approach. So we're sort of waiting for that in the wings. There may be some little adjustments to the allocation to and from general fund, but we're not 100% there yet, as we're in the process of trying to wrap that up. And we'll retroactively go back and change the allocation to the beginning of fiscal year 26 to whatever extent it's different than the allocation that everybody went forward with on a temporary basis. Okay?
Thank you.
Mark, I'm going to try to wrap it up here. I have to make one comment before I wrap it up about cost allocation, which will bring it down home. In a prior life with a Fortune 100 company that I worked for, I had to justify as the lawyer for the company to the regulators and to the bankruptcy judge a cost allocation between multiple subsidiaries in the amounts of billions of dollars and the accounting for it. And all I could think of as an employee was, they're going to make me keep timesheets for everything. And that was the end result, yes. So that's that brings it down to the real world. When you ask employees to keep timesheets, they say, no, get away from me, get away from me. So, but that's important. This is part of our job as a finance committee for you, and we've covered most of what is in this last page, but I do want to point out that we're building on a lot of data and information already provided to us, building on what we suggested and recommended in your FY26 budget discussions. You'll see here we have the cash management earnings. Mandy has been very helpful, as has Rich Garber, who's our financial whiz in terms of figuring out what's the forecast interest rate going to be on our cash management and what funds should be part of that forecast. And it's not a small number, because you can range from 500,000 to $1 million or more in terms of earnings. So that's bigger than a bread box. So all that is part of what we're going to do. We're going to try to, in the next month, come to a conclusion with our subcommittees. The process is the subcommittees don't make the decision. The subcommittees bring their reports to our full committee, and we have 6 members, and hopefully we'll have a 7th at some point. But the full committee will vote, and so far, I'm delighted. The full committee members have all contributed to discussions, and I am confident they will be unanimous in what we recommend to you. So very collegial and collaborative. So those are the next steps. I also want to remind you that all our members are volunteers and members of our community. We are not consultants, although maybe we should become. I wonder if we could, can we create an LLC, guys? And
Too late.
become a consultant to the, no, we're not going to do that. We're dedicated, but also, most importantly, each of our members brings incredibly detailed skill sets from private sector, public service, as well as their work in the community. And so we expect to have the finalized subcommittee reports in the next month and then move pretty rapidly to a final committee report. With that, I know it's probably longer than you expected, but we'd like to open up for any questions or comments or guidance you would provide. If there's something we're missing in what we're doing, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Colleagues? Mr. Barrett?
I would just like to have a comment. I've been very impressed with this team, and I'd also like to recognize Arlene Corsetti.
Yes.
Previously, you put a lot of work into it, who was the prior chair. Things are really coming together. There's been a lot of hard conversations, offline, online, and you get the best results. Really accomplished folks working these issues. It's not as easy as it first appears, but close to the finish line, and it's great to see the esprit de corps that the groups had, particularly lately as they go to the finish line and working with staff. It's been very collaborative, and thank you.
Yep. Well, thank you, because I think you chose us to be members, but you also have provided great guidance to us, and Councilmember Barak and our staff of the city have been very collegial and collaborative, and that's what makes this a great product and a great team.
Just let me briefly ask you about this category of aspirational. I haven't been following that particular topic as much as I will when it comes to us. I am a little concerned, I guess, as to what we do with that category, and that's out there, and I'll give you an example. So some of us would argue that a street extension, a road extension may fall into, although maybe extremely costly, difficult probably to achieve, maybe something that we need to start focusing in on, and maybe it's not the subject of this committee, but when you say aspirational, folks have a different idea what that means, and everybody's going to have a different interpretation of that, because you said, well, it's not required by law, it's not a public safety issue. So there may be some issues or some projects that I would consider a public safety issue. How is the committee going to handle that? Is that going to be put back to the council?
We're going to punt it. No.
Well, that's an example.
I'm going to put my fire safety hat on as an example. And I think it's so important because obviously when we look at police and fire, that's public health and safety. But there are other things that are public health and safety. A street extension could be something that our police and fire experts say is not just for fun, or for convenience, but it's a service level or it's public health and safety. We are not telling you that our judgment of what's aspirational is correct. And in fact, I've had discussions with Joe about the master plan that you're considering for streets. And there's a lot in there that's expensive. We haven't looked at the expenses. We looked at, okay, what is actually needed for public health and safety or service level of our transportation in the city. That's just what we've looked at. Joe is our expert on that. We also have our police and fire experts on that. So when we say something's aspirational, I may be right that it's actually a punt by us saying we can't determine as a finance committee, we're not transportation experts, we're not fire or police, we can't determine what's service level or compliance. We can take advice from our experts in the city, but when they can't tell us it's definitely public health or safety or compliance, then we're going to probably put it in that bucket. And I'm serious. It's then going to come to you because there's lots in that. I've reviewed very quickly the Parks and Rec draft master plan. There's a lot in there that's also projects, including some building projects that will kind of cross over into our buildings repair and uses. But a lot of that, I think we're going to categorize as aspirational, but you can categorize it differently. Does that answer your question?
It does. Fair enough.
I just want to add that the definitions the committee wrote and adopted were based on the Government Finance Officers Association definitions, which is good because it helps guide where those go, and we'll have some consistency there. So where they can't readily figure it out, it's not clear, doesn't mean that it stays in aspirational subject matters. It, like Chris was saying, can come in and decide something different. The key is that they're grouping those dollar numbers in buckets. So we're capturing it in a repeatable way.
All right, fair enough. Other comments, questions from my colleagues? None? Vice Mayor.
I want to say thank you. It's a great report, and as someone who doesn't attend these meetings, I get what's going so thank you. I feel like I have a lot more understanding. And on the topic of the aspirational stuff, this may be a little bit crude, but like when you have to get something at your house fixed, you say, okay, right, it's this much money, and can you give me an itemized list so I can understand what of the aspirational stuff I can choose? So I don't know if there'll be like an appendix in the report that has that stuff.
Yes, we hope there is, but we also get the benefit of staff things like the master plans and the Parks and Rec master plan. What's very good, and we've discussed it with Joe quite a bit, is taking a look at that master plan you already have on streets, and you can see pretty much based on the priorities there and the categorization already in the master plan what is genuinely public health and safety required or needed. Stuff that basically is something that we need to do but we haven't done, like deferred maintenance or deferred crossings, things like that. And there's other stuff that basically people may wish to have, but they aren't necessarily required for service level of transportation. And that's where Joe and the staff and Mandy are very helpful to us, and also where we have our experts on the Parks and Rec Commission. They've got a master plan that's coming to you, and we'll try to do the same. But we're advisory. We're not experts. We're not going to, express an opinion that says this is absolutely aspirational and not service level. We're going to give you some buckets. You get to look at the data like we are, and you may make some completely different decisions.
All right.
Thank you so much, and thanks again.
Ms. Patarota had just one more comment or a question.
Just a comment. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for all of you for volunteering your time. This is a lot of work, and it does not go unappreciated. It is very appreciated, and I'd like to thank the staff as well, obviously, for all the hard work that they have been doing as well to help with this study. It obviously already has taken leaps and bounds where we were, so much appreciated. The whole city thanks you. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for basically giving us the guidance to go ahead. And I want to thank my fellow committee members. This is a great team, a great group of people, very smart. I can't say enough. Decades and decades of skill and professional standards. So more to come. Thank you so much.
All right. All right. So, Mr. Camillo, now we're moving on to staff briefings and presentations. We're on to 9.1, which is the downtown sidewalk update, utilities conflict, and trees presentation. We have received some public comment from Ms. Covell, Ms. Neely, Ms. Gillespie, and Ms. I don't know, Jules Drury, I won't assume. I don't know who that is. Jules Drury. Okay. You want to introduce Adam?
Yeah, so council previously authorized this project, but lately we have found that there are some changes that may be required as a result of what we have found. With that, I'll turn it over to Assistant City Manager Joe Leach to make his presentation.
Thank you, City Manager Camillo and Mayor and council members. Thank you again. This really is to kind of provide you an update of what has transpired in what we're calling the Main Street Phase 1A sidewalk project. Again, that's between Adams and Pine. So we'll go to the next slide. I think on the outset, I want to kind of acknowledge that upon reading some of the public comments provided, that the slides are misleading. I mean, it appears to tell a story that we demoed trees, then we marked utilities, we figured out how bad the situation was once we did the work, and that actually is not the case. I'll get through the presentation, and then I'd like to read a really short email from Gelati Construction, the lead area manager, who describes the process that between the contractor and staff we went through to kind of collaborate to both solve the problem and both discover and then solve the problem. So the nature of the issue is that there's a gas line that's located directly beneath the trees, and this is on the east side. So we're looking south? Yes, right? North, thank you. Looking north. So this is on the east side, so adjacent to Lyman Park. And as you can see, the yellow line in the foreground, difficult to read, but it says that there's a gas line there. The trees had been removed, and I'll talk a little bit about the collaboration in advance that took place. Next slide. So originally it was expected based upon PG&E plans that the gas line was in the street, and that's what the design had originally been based upon. Next slide, please. And then that's where it's located today, actually based upon what's called underground service alert marking. And so we'll go to the next slide, which is a requirement to do before you dig. The other thing that the contractor did was actually pothole in various locations in the sidewalk and determine the depth of the existing pipe, and it's between 1.5 feet and 2.5 feet. So it actually, the tree root balls grew around this gas main. Next slide, please. So as we kind of discovered the options and alternatives, and I'll tell a little bit about some of the dynamics, the challenges, that some of the things that we explored was, well, maybe we can, and this was before the trees were demoed, maybe we can keep the trees. Well, that becomes a challenge with the roots that are actually raising pavers and concrete, and that's kind of partly why this project exists, is to kind of repair a lot of the sidewalk and damaged pavers. And then there's the challenge of, if we went to PG&E and says, move your gas main because it's in the middle of what we're doing as a beautification project, that's 9 months to a year process. And so because of the funding that we're receiving from the federal government, we weren't able to do that. That's not an option that's on the table. And so in addition, the construction had already started, so impacts to businesses, we felt that there would be a concern with delays associated with it. Next slide, please. So the option that was discovered, I also want to back up to that when we brought before you and really the public what we're doing on phase 1B, which is the paver rehab project, and the idea that initially we were going to demolish trees and replace them with what I think has been characterized by some as saplings. It's the 15-gallon trees, which are really small. The idea was, let's replace trees with the largest tree possible that could fit in the space. And it was either going to be a 48-inch box, again, it's 4 feet wide by 4 feet wide, or a 24-inch box. And so that was the project that we did for phase 1A, or phase 1B. And again, that was the paver rehab project between Adams and Pope. And so with that information, we actually changed the plans for phase 1A for the contractor to bid and install the largest tree possible in these new tree wells. So whether it's a 48-inch box, then there would be a deduct for a 24-inch box if that couldn't fit for some reason. So we were prepared to kind of install similar sized trees in these new locations as part of between Pine and Adams. So with this new dynamic, as we realized that the gas main was so shallow, we couldn't grind the roots low enough to be able to fit a 48-inch box in those locations. So again, another variable that had to be discussed, challenged, and kind of worked through as to what do we do in this particular situation. So the idea then was, why not, and again, also, we explored the idea, well, why not move the tree wells to the back of walk? Well, then that begins to kind of present some transitions and access issues related to existing properties and how the grading works. And so the determination was made, let's leave it in the same alignment, horizontal alignment, and again, put trees back on top of the existing gas main. Again, that's not the best practice, but That was done previously. We've coordinated with PG&E and kind of told them this is the dynamic that we're dealing with. And then knowing that we can't get the full grinding of the existing stumps too deep because of the shallowness of the gas main, the idea then was, let's see what we can do about chipping it out just below the surface and then putting some topsoil in and then low ground cover, kind of add some greenery at the sidewalk level. Again, this is up for discussion. But the idea is that we're still kind of being consistent with the original design, which was an element of symmetry of the new trees that were to be constructed. And it also lines up with the kind of the scoring pattern that is supposed to present kind of a historic scoring pattern, which is the smaller 2-foot squares that you see in various sidewalks around town. So there's alignment issues, there's accessible issues, there's utility issues, and these were all kind of discussed and collaborated with the contractor in advance of cutting down the trees. So, you know, it wasn't, oh, gee, there's a gas main here, maybe we should not do the project. It was, the project is advancing. What do we do with the trees and the existing root balls, and how do we mitigate that? Next slide, please. So let's see, what did I not cover? Gas pipelines. There's advantages. The solution is, there's some cost associated with the relocation. We'll talk a little bit about that. Sidewalk maintains ADA compliance, a pretty significant item. It does reduce the total amount of concrete, so we'll see a deduct on that regard because of the extended planters. Next slide, please. And then a few of the disadvantages, we're actually reducing the number of trees on one side of the street. The pedestrian path of travel is being reduced to 5 feet, but that's significantly more than is required. 4 feet is required by ADA. Box size of the trees will be reduced from the 48 originally designed to the 24. And again, that's on the east side. And I think part of what we're weighing or seeking council input is for an element of symmetry on both sides of the street, should we change all of the street sizes or the street tree sizes on the opposite side of the street to 24 as well? So all the trees are aligned. There's symmetry with the size. They're kind of growing at the same rate. And so that's kind of a question before you this evening. And I think with that, I am available for questions.
Mr.
Questions
Barrett.
or comments?
Mr. Barrett, I see you approaching your mic.
Director Leach.
Yes, sir.
And don't take this the wrong way. I don't mean it negatively per se.
Certainly.
I'm trying to understand the sequencing of when, like in a project, right, in the design and planning phase, a contractor would go reach out either to GIS or wherever and figure out where all these utilities are, where they think it is, right,
Yes.
based on this system of record. Did that occur in the design phase? So where, hey, it was found in the road, or at least the information back we received was, hey, the gas line's on Main Street, and there's no issue? Or am I misunderstanding that?
That is correct. The
Okay.
design drawings reflect the gas main in the street.
Okay, and so help me understand timeline-wise when, we found out, like, oops, those weren't correct, right? Whatever
Sure.
system of record wasn't accurate. It happens in old
Sure.
records. We
Yep.
run into that.
Yep. So I don't know that I can give you dates. I just know that between the contractor and the project manager, the Assistant Director of Public Works, Mr. Jansen, between the underground service alert marking, I mean, they have to do that first, where PG&E comes out and marks the utilities. It's required by law. And so you saw the yellow stripes for gas going right through kind of the heart of the tree well. And so once they saw that and realized there was kind of issues here, then they started their potholing process. So that's what kind of dictated the exact location, both horizontally and vertically. And then it kind of came to light that we're going to have to do something different with both the size and location of the trees.
Did this come up before when we found out? I'm trying to understand, was this months ago? Was this a week ago? Was this a year ago?
I'd probably say within the last 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks.
Okay, so it's relatively
relatively recent.
Relatively soon. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I don't know if you'd like to hear, it's a really brief paragraph from the contractor about the process they went through. Again, this is from Andre Libarlet. I think he's the area manager for Gelati Construction Company. And my question to him was in response to a public comment that asked, make sure I got this right. If the gas lines were located before the trees were cut, would there have been a different strategy to replace the sidewalks? Could all of the trees have been saved? If not, then some trees have been saved. Was there mismanagement in the process, potential quality and sequencing control that led to cutting down mature, irreplaceable trees? This is a yes or no question. So I posed that to Gelati, and their area manager's response was, in general, the conflict was discovered when we USA'd the project site. PG&E's gas layout showed we had an issue. In discussions with the city on how to proceed, there were multiple options discussed, but none seemed to allow for the overall long-term aesthetic and consistency that were desired as the project was designed. The existing trees had conflicts and appeared to be causing damage to the existing hardscape areas. Based on their size, it is unlikely the concrete could have been replaced around them without removing major roots which have caused long-term damage. Also, it should be noted that numerous trees appeared to be girdled already by metal from old tree grates or something similar which would limit their long-term health. Therefore, I would say the trees could not have been saved. No mismanagement for what I saw, just everyone trying to come up with the best solution and dealing with the constraints from every side, including existing roadway, ADA path of travel needed on the back of walk in order to maintain access to all buildings, etc., and a desire for a consistent new aesthetic throughout the project.
What conversations are happening with PG&E in terms of the new trees, even if they're in a relocated area? What is the position of PG&E?
It's kind of the same as what it is. You're entitled to put stuff on it, just don't damage it, and if you do, they will be present.
Are they concerned about a long-term issue of root intrusion or?
I don't know. I'm not specific to or privy to this conversation, but I think it's really more of it kind of grew that way historically.
Has there been any thought about just covering the areas? Could you actually cover the areas where the stumps are, or is it impossible with concrete, or is that not a thing to do?
So if you go, Andrew, if you go back to the slide with the little
I'm a little concerned about
planter.
those plants actually being spindly, maybe not enough maintenance, kind of looking not very pretty, unless the city is, really committed to making it look nice.
Yeah.
I see that in Calistoga, for example. I walk up and down the street, I have my law office there, and, people try to do that. They last a few months, and then it's dirt.
Sure.
So that's where we get to, honestly.
And I think because each of the tree wells will have, part of the infrastructure here is actually piped irrigation system. Each of the tree wells will have irrigation to kind of help maintain the trees in perpetuity, as long as they're going to need water. And so the irrigation can be easily extended to these particular areas, drip irrigation system. So that's part of it. But back to your question of, we can't just pave it over it. So the challenge is that we can't chip out enough of the root ball to be able to get a full concrete and aggregate-based section. And then the concern is, well, maybe we can just do reinforced concrete by itself on top of the chipped out root ball. But then the root ball is going to degrade over time, and then you could still have issues with settlement. So, I mean, those are things that were discussed and considered, and the idea was, well, let's just go with kind of a planter that can be refreshed on occasion. Potentially adjacent property owner can take, planting perennials or something along those lines if that's something that they would desire to do. But overall, that it will be part of the streets crew maintenance program.
Ms. Deasy, Vice Mayor.
Are you going to open it for public comment?
Are we allowed to have public comment, Mr.?
I think we should have public comment on
I think so, too. I'll wait for the question. I'll open it for public comment now. So, yeah, Ms. McKelly. You okay? All right.
Anthony McKelly, live in 1125 Cornella. I've been a contractor in this town for 40 years. I've been at every meeting for this project, and I had some concerns that all of you know that with this project, you're not replacing the water lines that you're going to pour new concrete over. And when those water lines leak, people are going to be out there with a jackhammering all these water lines. As far as this gas line, they're going to pour concrete over it. What happens in 5 years that PG&E decides to upgrade that gas line? They're going to dig up all that side of the street. And today, I don't know if you know, I went to the post office, and the post office said yesterday, and I don't know if Joe Leach knows this, they were cutting the concrete, the saw disintegrated. They ran into the old railroad line going on the sidewalk. That's the problem with this city. Nobody knows where anything is at. It's unfortunate. There's no maps, there's no nothing. And I am an interest in two buildings, one on Main Street, 1150, well, it's a Saint. When I dug up the tree that flooded our building with sewage about 20 years ago, I discovered there's a 4-inch gas line 1 foot from that tree. And you're going to find the same gas line when you do Main Street, the section between Adams and Mitchell. And the post office was kind of comical today because nobody knew that railroad track was there. And they destroyed a blade. Those blades are $300 or $400. And they're going to find more stuff in this project that they don't know where it's at. And also, at the last meeting, I mean, Kate Sperato and Billy Summers rejected this plan, but then 2 weeks later, because you had to pass it before you got this grant, that the trees that they're going to plant, according to the staff report, they did away with the Chinese pistachio 2 years prior. But when they came to the council, that tree was back in. And the reason was that tree goes 40 feet tall, 30 feet wide, and it's not supposed to be within 14 feet of a building. Our sidewalks are only 10 feet. Those buildings are going to get brushed. But by this, reducing this 4-foot planter box to a 2-foot or doing all this, the trees are never going to get big. But this city, you don't think. I mean, you rush into projects, and now you got cost overruns already with Gelati, and you're going to get a lot more. This project, I think, was close to you got a grant for 1.2. I think the project's supposed to be 1.8. It's going to go over 2 million, easy. And where are you going to find these extra funds? And I'm only concerned that PG&E comes back later and says we want to raise that gas line maybe 2 years from now, maybe 3 years, and you're going to dig up all the work you have done. You should move that gas line somewhere and get it out of this project. You should replace all the water lines that you're not going to do. I mean, the city's going to be either knocking out before the meter, because it's on the city side, you have to pay for that, or the property owner. And according to the minutes of a conversation with Joe, that the guy in charge here never asked the landlords of that property if once the concrete was removed, did they want to replace their gas or their water line so they wouldn't have to deal with the concrete again. Thank you.
Elaine DeMann. I apologize because I like to have my comments written for me, so I am sure to present questions and comments in a responsible and a cohesive manner. But after listening to Mr. Leach's presentation, I have a question. When did the city receive the grant money? How long did you have it before this emergency situation arose that had you bypass a very important part of the process, one that led to a denuding of our Main Street just days before our 150-year celebration? which I had just heard from someone who was there, and I am so sorry to Ashley, for all the work she put into this, but I heard it was not very well attended. And that's just a real shame. And the loss of the trees, which may not have had to happen, that's an even bigger crime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleen Gillespie. Oh boy. Instead of talking about the beautification, which seems like that whole dialogue went away from the gas pipeline to how do we make it pretty, just seems like a Band-Aid to me. The fact that Mr. Leach cannot come up with dates, knowing this is on the agenda of when the chronological order of how this happened, I think it was line 3 of what he read from Mr. Gelati that said when PG&E was contacted, they told us where the gas line was. So the contractor, just a few weeks ago, contacted PG&E and they told them where the gas line was. Why is that the first? Why is that the first you're hearing about a gas line at that point? I understand that the trees were going to go, but there's a little suspicion on my part about why it had to happen so quick around that whole art installation that was supposed to happen. So I'm just, I understand about the beautification. I liked what the gentleman said about let's fix it right the first time. Instead of rushing this through and wanting a decision tonight whether we want the lower flowers lower on the ground or how are we going to make it pretty. There's a big problem going on, and I just don't understand how our public works director, you can blame it on the contractor, but if you are the overseer of this project, it's the first thing. I learned that as a kid. Call before you dig. It's like that was ingrained in us, even though I have nothing to do with that type of work. So the fact that that is not, it's just the beginning of what's going to happen all the way down. So I think there's a bigger situation to be looked at as to planting annuals or not, because that might have to go in the aspirational fund as opposed to, because it's not public safety. So who's going to maintain that? Lyman Park looked a mess today for our proclamation. We held it by the gazebo, which looks pretty right there, but as I walked toward the street, I mean, there's equipment left out there that obviously the city's not worried if somebody walks off with it. It's like, there's got to be some oversight here, and I'm just perplexed. I just shake my head. It's exhausting. It really is. This is only I just can't believe it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Drianne Faust, and I run La Boheme, which is right where all of this work is happening. And we're really the only shop in that sort of part of the town. And the parking situation with all of the signs, and I've spoken to everyone, and I've spoken to the Galati brothers, and, they're putting the signs so they can't really see them, like I understand that they've turned them around, but having all of those signs everywhere, it impacts parking every single day, and that's at least 20 parking spaces, and I'm not the only business. I mean, there is the rest of downtown where people can park and then walk down, and it feels that no parking for 2.5 months feels very excessive, and it doesn't really feel like you guys are considering the impact it has on those of us who are trying to make St. Helena a wonderful place to come to and to visit.
Thank you for that comment.
Kelly Wheaton, Inglewood Avenue. I think this discussion just exemplifies some of the preliminary findings of the report. It's like the process is broken, the communication between the community and people that know. In fact, Lana Ivanoff told me that they were digging up the water main in her little cul-de-sac there, and somebody came out and said, no, so-and-so, his line doesn't go off there. And your public works people said, no, they all come off. They come off it like this. And they dug the big hole in the street and the line wasn't there. And so you don't listen to the people that live here. It doesn't matter whether it's a public works issue or whatever. It's like the people, whether they've been here 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, or yesterday. You don't care and you don't listen. And therein lies the problem.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Lou Cavell. I sent in that public comment that Joe Leach was reading those questions from. I came tonight, I don't have a prepared speech. I think if you look at my prepared speech or submittal, it shows all the pretty trees in all the colors. And I know my office kind of looks out that way, and I see people taking pictures of them, especially in the fall. And I really want to give Mr. Warner the benefit of the doubt that I am not knowledgeable enough to understand what happened here. And I'm really was hoping that there was something more to this presentation that I had missed. There was nothing misleading in this presentation. There are no answers. There should be, who made the decision to cut down the trees? When the trees were cut down, did you already know that the gas line was under there? These are pretty basic questions. And somebody actually pointed out, was it dangerous to have these trees cut down while the gas line was underneath it? Because that is a significant potential issue. I don't know, with the vibrations of things. If there are no answers today, just know that there will be a PRR put in. So when did the gas line get located? When did 811 get called? To Aaron Barrick's point, in the design process, why was it not known where the utilities are as far as the city utilities? I saw that this project was planned for decades. And why are we just finding out about this now? Secondly, Gelati, I didn't ask Gelati to answer my questions. I'm asking the city to answer my questions. I'm not asking whether or not there was mismanagement by Gelati. I'm asking if there was mismanagement within this city. How much time is left with this funding? Because I think we need to know that answer so that we can better design what we can do. Secondly, it is our 150th. Who decided to cut down the trees right before the 150th? If this was planned for decades, doesn't it not make sense to maybe cut this, if they needed to get cut down for whatever reasons they needed to be cut down for, shouldn't have maybe waited a little bit? We've waited decades. I don't understand why this was rushed. I really want to know who cut these trees down, because as somebody else said too, some of this pavement was not raised. There are areas of the street that was not bumpy and a trip hazard, and there were a bunch of trees cut down, and perhaps they weren't needing to be cut down. We're not going to get trees that size for years. I came here to apologize for saying piss poor management, but I'm not apologizing. I stand by it.
Hello, good evening, everyone again. So I don't have anything prepared either, so this is just off the cuff. And I'm learning that at these council meetings, you don't really have to prepare anything. It's theater. There's something that it just keeps reoccurring. This whole subtext keeps reoccurring, and it is the Blackburg report of just the lack of competencies, the lack of management, the lack of due diligence. I mean, I have been in real estate 25 years. If I conducted my business as this city conducts its, I would have been out of business 24 years ago. Realtor 101. You do any kind of cutting in a sidewalk, you do any kind of prepping a property for sale, you absolutely first find out where pipelines are. You go to the city, you find out where the maps are, and if there aren't any maps, you absolutely call the utility to come out and line it. You don't cut first. You don't do that. But you know what I'm finding more and more often is when it's Margaret Thatcher said, geez, it's a real problem when you run out of other people's money, right? And that's what's happening, because that's why I think the answer, and there will be the CRPAs, why was this rushed? It sounds like there was a grant involved. And I don't know anything about this particular grant, so I could be very not speaking the truth here or what's really been going on, but that's why there will be a CRPA. Was this rushed through because the grant was for a project like this or of this magnitude or for this reason? I don't know how it works. And the only reason to get the grant was to show that this was a project that was in progress and had dates attached to it. And if that's the case, that's how a lot of government agencies work. I know that there are private contractors that, government agencies at the end of the year, they don't get their funding. They don't say, oh, we went under budget this year. They say, we need more. Because otherwise, then they're going to cut, the government will cut their budget and funding. I mean, God forbid we actually value engineer projects, right? I mean, after all, it's not your money, right? It's our money. But I'm sorry, I'm digressing. Mr. Leach did not answer to my, Mr. Barak's question, which is Ms. Covell's question about the timing. There's too many gaps in your answer, Mr. Leach. Too many. And there shouldn't be any gaps. You should be able to pull those dates up. You should be able to pull the chronology of conversations. When PG&E was contacted, sounds to me like possibly those trees were cut when everyone thought, because the map said the gas line was in the middle of the street, instead of calling PG&E to say, let's confirm those old records that the gas lines are in the middle of the street before we start cutting. And oh, by the way, value engineering again, those sidewalks, even there, don't look like they need to be torn up. Again, value engineering, Realtor 101, until we have the funding or PG&E, maybe collaborate with PG&E and say, how many years do you think you're going to want to redo these gas lines? Let's coordinate this project, right? But until we can do that, why don't we just have somebody come out and smooth down the concrete, which I have my sidewalks done all the time, or walkways, and then fill it in so it's even ADA compliant, so it's a nice little, maybe a little moguls, but that's okay. People can walk there. It's not a trip hazard anymore. And then you have those trees for the 150th anniversary. You don't have this kind of contention, distrust, but it's the Blackburg report is rearing its head, and it will continue until there are significant changes. And folks know where they need to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bring it back to the council. We'll close the comment. Ms. Deasy, you've recovered. Hello.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the report. I'm still trying to understand, so I just want that there actually probably are kind of clarifying questions. We did not do the underground service or potholing or calling before we cut down the trees? Is that true? That we did it after we underground serviced or potholed or called after the trees were cut down?
No.
No. So we knew about this before.
Correct.
The trees were cut down.
Correct.
Okay, that was not my understanding. Okay, and then it was decided that we needed to cut down the trees anyway because help me again here. I'm stumbling. So.
Yeah, but based upon either trip hazards adjacent to the trees or because the curb and gutter was being replaced as part of the project, many of the areas adjacent to trees, the gutters kind of lifted or cracked or in disrepair, and so it would be cutting into the roots. Again, that the concern was if we were to kind of replace the sidewalk, that we'd be cutting into the root structure of the trees and jeopardize their health. And so that the original plan all along, which was developed by Gates, was to replace the trees.
Okay. So this stuff we did call before cutting down the trees.
Correct.
And we knew maybe just the council and the public were not aware of this and were sort of finding out after
Correct.
the trees are cut down. Okay. So I have two more questions. There are different trees being cut down or being planted, and we have confidence that they will be better than what was there in terms of the trees.
Correct.
Okay. And then I'm interested in the gas line. Moving the gas line, the grant funding might be jeopardized. Have we asked if we can extend the grant due to this situation? Might they understand?
I don't know specifically if Mr. Jansen has engaged PG&E about relocating the line. I think he's had some preliminary conversations, and I think that's where they got the 9 months to a year of processing to do that. To speak to the idea of what PG&E would do in the future about replacing their gas service, they would do that through directional drilling and most likely in the street, not in the sidewalk. So I think the idea of relocating it and pausing the project, I don't know that that's been broached by any party.
So is that because you're saying that it would add so much more cost to ripping up the street? Is that so? It's not actually about jeopardizing the grant funding, because we haven't asked yet. It's more about the cost that would be added, I assume, to us if we had to pay for them to be moved. It's more money that we don't actually, it's more money that we haven't budgeted.
Yeah, in terms of who has the responsibility to relocate their gas service, that's based upon the franchise agreement language, which we have with PG&E for their gas main to be in our sidewalk. But I don't know off the top of my head the details associated with that.
So I'm wondering if how many days it would take to talk to PG&E and to talk to the funder, if that were an actual solution to move the gas line so that we could plant trees in this area that wouldn't be problematic. Could we do that? Or are you saying that?
That's at least a year out. For them to move their main, their distribution line, and for us to kind of put the whole project on hold, we would probably lose our contractor, or we would pay a premium for them to remobilize and come back next year to complete the project.
And is that, I don't know, from a long-term perspective, would it be the right decision potentially to, right? It seems not ideal to have that gas line there with trees over it. So might it be, if it worked if it weren't our cost to pay for it, and the funder could push the funding out, would that be a better long-term solution or not a better long-term solution?
Let me make sure I understand the question. Is it better to not have a gas main underneath trees? Yes. So the timing to get there and the variables associated with the grant, the funding, how long it actually is going to take for PG&E to get through their process to relocate their gas line, if they would actually be willing to, if we've got language in our franchise agreement to make them. So those are a lot of variables associated with that we don't know, quite honestly.
Should we try?
If that is the direction from the council, yes.
Last thing, maybe lavender breeze could go in instead of the little shrubby things, but that's a small topic.
Certainly.
All right. What do my colleagues think? I think Ms. Deasy, the Vice Mayor, has presented a wait-and-see deal with inquire at least with PG&E. Thoughts from others? By the way, the $1.2 million OBAG grant has been delayed several times already. It's a grant probably, 6 years old by now? I think it was, the original intention of that grant was to do Adams to Mitchell. We've received a couple of extensions through NBTA because of the escalated costs associated with that project. I think those costs have gone down.
And there was a swap at one time, you may remember, Mayor,
Right.
where we swapped some money for the Vine Trail project, I believe, between Calistoga and Yountville.
Yeah. My gut is telling me that it's inappropriate to put trees on those gas lines, that we should at least try to, okay, so I always talk about binary decisions and it's this or that. Is there something in the middle of those two, or is it impossible to do a significant amount of sidewalk work, not put in any trees for a while, and have PG&E potentially move its line without damaging the sidewalks? Or is that pie in the sky naivete on my part?
No, I think when they did the work on, some of the work that they did on replacing some of their gas mains, a couple summers ago, I think they did it through directional drilling. So that's a construction procedure they use often. So I think if your question is, can we pursue collaboration, coordination with PG&E to move their gas main, and at the same time not have an adverse impact on the schedule for the project? That I need to ask Gelati, because I know that they're working towards starting demolition in the next
Understood.
2 weeks.
The other thing I would ask PG&E or suggest to PG&E potentially is it in your benefit as a company to move that gas line as you've done other moves, for example, right in front of Sunshine, that whole area. That was PG&E took that cost.
Yes.
And they built a sidewalk. I'd like to get a sidewalk from PG&E. I don't know if the line, it's not a funny subject, it's a public safety issue, but it is, if this is the time for PG&E to analyze the quality of that pipeline, now's the time to engage them, I think. I think it's appropriate at least to ask.
Correct.
If they say, no, that pipeline's in good shape, we have no plans to do anything with that pipeline for another 30 years, then that's another story. But at least we should have that conversation with them to see what it is, have the conversation with NBTA in terms of the extension of the grant. Are there public safety issues that you're concerned about while we wait? I mean, it's a mess out there, as folks have, and the parking issue continues to be something. We should manage that a little bit better. We got better on Oak managing, with the signs there, even though there was no work going on.
Correct.
That's obviously frustrating. I think that was a heartfelt request by the owner of that business. A couple things going on there, so I want to make sure that the businesses aren't impacted, that public safety is primary, but also maybe just kind of getting a feel for what PG&E has in mind on that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'd like to have Caltrans repave the whole thing. It's a mess.
Yes.
The whole, that whole Highway 29 is a mess. It's an embarrassment for our city.
Yeah.
For people to come through.
I think they have a scheduled maintenance project within
Yeah.
the next 2 or 3 years.
What do my other colleagues think about? I'd hate to lose that 1.2 million, but I think public safety has to trump that. What do others think in terms of the direction that we're kind of trying to cobble here?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in line with the mayor and vice mayor. I think we should see what PG&E is going to say to us as far as potentially moving the lines. I would like to maybe input, and this is just, if we wind up with somebody saying, we're going to yank your grant money if you don't X, Y, a short intermediate, and obviously this would be something we would talk about, this would come to us beforehand, but something like having the trees but in planters on the sidewalk or such, where we have the trees, it's just we're waiting to be able to put them in. So we wind up having to buy the trees. I don't know if that might be potentially something that we could use in talking with them about getting things moving, or if that might be an option at all, but it's just a thought so that we have trees, but they're not, on top of these gas lines that we need to figure out if we can move them or not before we plant trees back in the sidewalk.
And Mr. Barrick, do you have anything else to add to it?
Not to add,
yeah.
just the water line was mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't know if we know where the water line is there, and I think we should be also during this pause making sure we look at that. Probably have looked at that.
Yes.
I'm not saying you haven't, but I don't know about it. Public doesn't know about it. I think we need just more of an accounting here, sequencing. It feels like, we're in a unfortunate situation, obviously. I don't want to compound it by either just moving forward without these details, so I'm aligned.
What if PG&E says, no, we're not interested in moving it? Then, are we ready to move forward with something, or are we going to wait? In other words, would the direction be conditional? I'm not suggesting one way or another. I'm throwing it out there. If there's a no possibility, we've uncovered every stone here, and we are not going to be able to move PG&E off, and we need to move forward on it. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts would be, I'm no natural gas expert, but planting trees with root systems on top of gas lines isn't a winning recipe, I think, from a safety perspective. So we'd need to look at something else there, and I presume that you have something else to look at. But I'd love to see some sort of quick community input on any alternative, if practicable. It might not be. Again, we don't really have the timelines or the sequencing here to understand what our flexibility is, if we have any, on decision making. I think there's an opportunity to just very quickly clarify those items.
Okay.
Mr. Camello, let's see, you want to make a comment, please?
I do. So when I heard about this a couple of days ago, and I asked that Mr. Leach bring the item here, we did, because it is in fact complex, and I am, on the other hand, afraid that the contract is mobilized. There's a lot of money at risk, including $1.2 million that we've been waiting to utilize for many years. I think that there's been some really good discussion, and I think the staff has got a lot of homework to do. But I wondered whether perhaps the vice mayor and mayor or something of that sort committee we can work with in the interim after today, because we may need to make some. Maybe the simplest way to move forward, for example, would be the safest way would be potentially to not plant any trees right now, but let the project move forward once you get the facts. But it'd be helpful to have some council members to work with, so we can not risk the loss of the monies. Also, I just want to take heed of what the director said. Once a contractor gets mobilized, we are legally bound in terms of performance. If we stop that process, there are some issues we need to deal with. So for that reason, I think we should move forward with certain aspects of the project, but perhaps not plant the trees, which is the risk area.
I was sort of hinting at that, but I don't know if anyone else is comfortable with that. I'd actually, rather than two council members, I'd rather have the information studied, researched, and then, if necessary, have a special session with all of us weighing in, and the community can weigh in based on new facts, if there are any. But in terms of going forward without the trees, Mr. Leach, what do you think?
Well, we'll
temporarily or maybe permanently. I don't know.
There's still work to be done. Right?
Yep.
There's still demolition work. I guess my wonder is, once they do the demolition, they're going to want to make sure they get, there's conduit that's being replaced, there's being utilities being replaced and such. And then they're going to want to pour concrete as soon as possible so that access is restored. But they can't really block out these alternative tree locations until we give them that direction. So I guess my suggestion, my proposal, I suppose, or what I'm hearing is that you're wanting input on how we resolve this issue based upon more information and the constraints that I haven't had at my fingertips this evening.
Yes.
So we can do that. I mean, we may end up needing a special meeting either next week or in 2 weeks. Because I think we're going to need to want this done before the meeting on the 14th, is my suspicion.
Ms. Wheaton, seems like, I closed the public comment, and could you do 2 minutes, please? So we have a lot more to go on, but I'll give you both 2 minutes. I think Ms. Sorensen, I don't want to go on to an extended conversation.
No,
Go ahead, Ms. Wheaton. I'll open the public comment.
This is Kelly Wheaton, and I'm posing that this is exactly what happened when you gave Mr. Camello a conditionary approval of the art project to go forward depending on the results of the Parks and Recs Commission. You need to stand firm, say no when you mean no, and stop pussyfooting around. And you need to hold your director to account for coming to meeting after meeting after meeting. I'm sorry, Joe, but it is a pattern of behavior. I don't have that data with me. Oh, I'll have to get that back to you. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? You guys vote for it without ever getting that information and without ever holding you to account for being unprofessional and unprepared at these meetings.
All right. Thank you. That really was not helpful for our deliberations, but you feel better? Next.
This will be.
Yes.
So, a couple of things quickly. Again, who made the decision to remove the trees?
All right. We have that question in mind.
Okay, great. So the other thing is, I do agree with the whole preparedness thing needs to be, that issue, you cannot come to these meetings and be sitting here without the preparation. And number two, please just go to PG&E and see if there is, see if there is a coalition that could be made between the city and PG&E with, we were actually looking at replacing those lines.
And that's the direction we've given our staff.
And you will be taking it. And we will then be holding off on the approval, and Mr. Leach will then also be pushing forward, as you've mentioned, to a meeting in another couple of weeks to see this through.
I understand that's the direction we've given so far. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anthony McKelly, I'm not here to yell at anybody. I have a suggestion. Why doesn't a contractor finish the west side of the street where there's no problem, unless the gas line, it's a 4-inch gas line, a foot under the ground, in front of our building at the Saint, doesn't run all the way up to Madrona.
We need to know that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if it doesn't, the contractor will not have to be gone. He can still work, but complete that side. Plant your trees, pour all the sidewalk, fix the water lines, I hope, and the sewer lines, but complete it until you get answers from PG&E, because I know if you send this contractor away, there's going to be more cost to the city.
That's a good point.
I'm not after that.
It's a good point, and that's what I'm getting at by continuing.
Finish the west side, and it'll be beautiful. Thanks.
I think that makes sense. Ms. Covell, 2 minutes, please.
Short one.
Thanks.
I don't think we got an answer to who made the decision to cut the trees. And especially since after public comment was closed and then Michelle Deasy had clarified that it was apparently known that the gas lines were under it, and then the decision to make the cut was done. I want to know who made that decision, because now we're having to come back with plan B and deliberate and come up with ideas for plan B. We could have been deliberating plan B with the trees still there for 150th.
We got it. We've got that question in mind.
I'm not going to be long. I'm Mary Alice Steelout. What about those big pots and put the trees in pots? Because I think that looks really nice, and then you don't have to worry about ruining the cement on the sidewalks ever again.
We need to consider that. Okay, I'm closing public comment. Good comments, Mr. McKellar. I appreciate your comments. Some of the options. I think you actually answered the question about who made the decision, but can you clarify? I mean, I assume it's a joint decision with the contractor, the city.
Correct.
Making a decision to cut down trees. The decision was made a long time ago. It's part of the plan, right, to replace
Correct.
the trees.
Correct.
Right.
So the timing of when was based upon the sequencing of the project.
Okay. More to offer on this before I take a break. What do you think about proceeding with the west side? Is that to keep them mobilized, or is that some? I don't know. I don't know their business.
Yeah, I can work with the contractor
Okay.
to see if how that works with their sequencing.
Okay. All right. Let's. Do you have enough direction? Do you think?
Yes. Thank you.
I'm willing. I don't want to be a two-person committee. There's a lot of complicated issues there, but I'm willing to jump into a special session at any time over the next week or two. You'll probably want earlier direction, but it depends on what
Correct.
And I don't, PG&E may take a while before you actually get a firm answer from them. So, all right, let's take a 10-minute break.
Thank you.
Thank you all for participating. Difficult, complex issues, but we'll work through it. All right, folks, we're going to reconvene our meeting, and we're going to have to come to order. Thank you. Thank you all for quieting. We're gonna come back to our calendar. I think we finished item 9.1, so we're on to the consent calendar. We're trying to adjust a few things. It's already 8:45. We have a fair amount of business to do. Does anybody from the council wish to pull any items from the consent calendar or potentially continue any items that are not urgent to another calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I have 2 consent items I would like to pull. One of those consent items I'd like to postpone. The 2 items to pull would be 10.2 and 10.5. I'd like to postpone 10.2 to another session where we can...
10.5.
Yeah, 10.5. Pardon me. Thank you.
Okay.
And I would like to move 13.1 to a future special session.
All right. So we're making a few adjustments. Is it okay to make the 13.1 and the 10.5 continuances now with staff's approval? Are there urgencies? And is it appropriate to do it as a motion?
I don't know if there's, I can't speak to whether or not there's urgencies, but in terms of what you can do, I think you can make a motion now to move both of those either to a date certain or to a future agenda.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Want to make a motion and then we'll take
I'll make a motion to move 10.5 and 13.1 to a future date. Sorry. 10.5. Wait. Yes, 10.5 and 13.1.
Right.
Didn't I say that?
13.1 is the streets master plan.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, 13.1 is the streets master plan. I know some folks may have been here to talk about that. We can move that. We have a motion and a second to move to a date uncertain, 10.5 and 13.1. Okay. All right. It is. We're just taking,
10.5.
we're just taking the.
But I want 10.2 taken off consent as well for discussion today.
Thank you. That's what I was going to request.
Yes, we have that, but we're going to take one item at a time. So we're going to have a continuance of 13.1, which is the streets master plan. We're going to have a continuance of 10.5. There's a motion, and who made the second? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrick.
Yes.
Councilmember Spotterado.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy.
Yes.
Mayor Dohring.
Yes. Okay, I'll look for a motion to adopt the balance of the consent calendar with the exceptions of 10.2 and obviously 10.5.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and second to adopt the balance of the consent calendar with the exceptions of 10.2. We know that 10.5 has been continued. Mr. Bradley, roll call, please.
Councilmember Spotterado.
Yes.
Councilmember Barrick.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy.
Yes.
And Mayor Dohring.
Yes. Now that leaves us with business on 10.2. Invite a brief report, and then we'll open it for public comment.
All right, good evening, Mayor and council members. So this item is to ratify the appointment of Lisa McHale as the Director of Community Development. As you know, our previous director, Maya DeRosa, announced her retirement in November. We brought forth a request to City Council to recruit for the position in December. Council authorized that recruitment. I reached out to 3 different recruiting firms to get a price to assist with the recruitment because it is a difficult position to fill. Peckham McKinney was selected as the recruiting firm to conduct that for us. We received 7 applications. Out of those 7 applications, Peckham McKinney actually did a preliminary screening with each of the applicants, determine whether they met the qualifications. 4 of the applicants were recommended, actually I apologize, 3 of the applicants were recommended to move forward for interviews, and 1 of them dropped out of the running. So we were left with 2 applicants for interviews. We had a panel that was conducted the interviews, which comprised of Interim Director McCann, Retired Director Maya DeRosa, and Director of Community Development from Healdsburg, Scott Duvian. And they selected Lisa as the top candidate, and so she was moved on to the next round where she did an interview with the city manager and was ultimately selected for the position. And tonight is just to ratify that appointment. Thank you.
Okay. Do we want to take public comment before we make our own comments? Or have questions? Mr. Beck, you pulled it.
Sure.
Do you have an intention?
I do. I wanted to discuss the methodology around the interview panel, and specifically the decision around not including somebody from council or the planning commission more specifically, and want to understand the thought process there.
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't normally include council members on the panels for director appointments, but the decision on those 3 candidates, they were selected because they do know this city very well. Healdsburg is a city that's very similar to St. Helena, which is why Scott Duvian was asked to participate. And then both Maya and Mr. McCann have served here and have expertise in what challenges we're facing here as a community.
If I can add to that, Mr. Mayor?
Of course, Mr. Camillo.
As a former HR director and working in multiple public agencies and in the local government, both in the county as well as various cities, it is highly unusual, although not unprecedented, to have commissioners serve on initial recruitment panels. It is more common, in fact, almost always, The panel is made up of subject matter experts in the first round. In this case, all three of the panelists were subject matter experts. They were planning directors, either currently or previously. And then it usually goes to peers, usually the department heads in the city that being recruited. So our directors would normally serve. And ultimately, it goes to the appointing authority, in this case, myself. So we follow that normal process, which is quite standard.
Ms. Deasy.
Thank you. I wonder if there's a difference in, like, St. Helena's sort of historical process, and maybe St. Helena has a different historical process versus standard. Just remembering, my history here isn't that long, but a director hire where we did have a council member, and right when we hired Director Jans, we had a representative from the commission and from the city council, as I recall. So I wonder if there's just a St. Helena expectations versus other expectations.
Yeah, so in my conversations when I first got here, I didn't bring it up. In fact, former previous city manager Mark Presswich brought that issue up to me and explained to me that was a unique circumstance, and I can. There were some particular issues around that particular recruitment that he felt best to go that route. But that was unusual, even for this city, as I understand it.
Do you recall whether there were any planning commissioners or council members on the Maya DeRosa appointment? It's been a while, of course.
I don't believe there was.
You don't believe there was?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Let me take the moment to open it for public comment. I know somebody here. Are they still here? Oh, there you are. I cannot see you from there. Yes. Welcome.
Thank you again. Thank you again, council members. My name is Katie Sample, and I am wanting to encourage you to read the tea leaves on this and understand that we have paid the firm to do an efficiency study. And as was well reported by the Finance Committee tonight, they are very close to coming to a final report. And it has been pointed out in the draft that there are some serious concerns about the salary levels of our staff. And why, again, would we move forward with an important decision that is going to be a permanent expense? I don't care if it was filled in the past. We've got this good information that we're about to get a hold of that will broaden your understanding of whether we can afford this person and or other efficiencies in staffing that could we could handle it differently. So again, please consider putting the brakes on and waiting for the information that you've paid to get. Don't ignore that. Use it, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to speak about the proposed ratification of the appointment of Ms. McHale as Director of Community Development. This is not a routine position. As your own staff states, or your report states, this role is a critical executive-level position responsible for overseeing long-term growth, regulatory compliance, planning, building, housing policy, and implementation of the general plan. In other words, this role helps shape the future of St. Helena, which is why it was so concerning that this item was originally placed on the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are typically reserved for routine, non-controversial matters, items that do not require discussion. This is neither routine nor minor. So I appreciate that this decision was pulled from the consent calendar. And I appreciate that Mandy has clarified who was on that panel, but I'm not sure we know how they were selected, what criteria they used, and if any council members were involved, or why this candidate was chosen over the others. And the timing makes it even more concerning. Tonight, Immediately following this meeting, the council will meet in closed session to evaluate the performance of the city manager, the very individual who made this appointment. Regardless of anyone's opinion on that matter, it raises a reasonable question. Is this the appropriate moment to ratify a major executive appointment without full discussion? Especially when there is already significant public concern about transparency and decision-making at the city's highest levels. To be clear, this is not a criticism of Ms. McHale. Her resume may be strong. She may ultimately be an excellent choice, but that is exactly why this deserves to be discussed openly, because the public should understand why she was selected, what made her the top candidate, and how that decision was reached. This is how trust is built. Right now, trust in this community is fragile. Placing a decision of this magnitude on the consent calendar and to be possibly ratified tonight without a lot of further discussion or explanation does not rebuild that trust. It undermines it. So my request is simple. Please bring it back as a full agenda item. This would provide the transparency this decision deserves and that this community deserves. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good job, Norm.
He was my dad.
I know you were standby. Appreciate you. This man was struggling with her voice tonight, so we had backup. Go ahead. Ms.
Hi
Gillespie.
again, Colleen Gillespie. First of all, I'm puzzled. Did I miss 10.1? Maybe you can address that afterwards, but I was waiting for that one. Anyway, on this particular one, I don't have a lot of facts and details. I kind of go with what I've read and my opinion on this. And Mr. Camillo explained the process, how it normally happens when these interviews are conducted. I also agree that I don't think that takes anything off board for further vetting by additional people. This situation of what is going on with our leadership within the city is being questioned by many, and I also feel that that shouldn't be a sole decision by somebody that we're asking to have removed from office by many of us. And so I think that I also agree, I love that it's taken, I'm learning this, I love that it was taken off the consent portion and then hopefully brought back to an agenda. My public comment letter was more addressing in the contract that this person, whoever, well, at least we'll just go with Ms. McHale, and I know nothing about her, but it says that telecommuting would be accepted. And I can't remember if it said with the city manager's approval or not, but telecommuting was going to be an acceptable part of this job. And I think we've run into that situation with Mr. Camillo not living here. It seems to be, from what I've heard, many of the complaints about not being involved in the city. So I'm against anybody that would be allowed to telecommute. I don't know if that's why we have a remote participation from Laguna Beach, but I don't think that we should hire somebody that doesn't live within 30 miles of our city limit. The only time telecommuting, I think, should be allowed is if they're away on city business. So I don't want to rush into something and have the same mistakes being made, which seem to generate a lot of the complaints that are going on about the current administration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Michelle Lou Cavell. I am going to build off some of these questions. Tonight, if you're reviewing, I guess my question is, how much interaction have you guys had as a council with the Ms. McHale? Have you spoken with them? What questions were asked by the panel? And what were the answers? It'd be kind of interesting to see what this interview process looked like. I'm speaking as a resident, not as a planning commissioner. I am a planning commissioner, but our town is facing a lot of potential change, or there's a lot of housing laws. There's a a lot of projects are controversial, and I think at least in the next 4 years, it's going to be pretty significant time for our town. And so I really want to know these candidates and how that interview questioning, if any of those questions addressed what we're going through, any knowledge, any past experience, any ways that they've been how they've addressed issues in planning commission, how they've addressed their general plan, what their thoughts are on our zoning code and our process. Do they understand the current state of our town and what we just did with our zoning rewrite, that we haven't had a general plan annual review for 14 years. I just would like to know how much this person knows of our town and the significant issues that we're facing right now. I think we do need a director. I just don't think we need to rush into it. I'd really love to know that if you're going to make this decision, it's based on knowing that she's a really good fit for our town. And that's really important because right now we need every possible director, leader to be a really good fit for our town. That's all I have to say.
Mayor, can we have a motion to extend the meeting to 9:30?
I don't know.
Make a motion to extend the meeting to 9:30.
Sounds like we do have a motion. Is there a second to extend to 9:30? Was that Mr. Barrick? Second? Roll call, please. Motion and second to extend to 9:30.
Vice Mayor Deasy?
Yes.
Councilmember Barrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Spoterato?
Yes.
Mayor Dohring?
Yes. All right. Ms. Sorensen.
Good evening again. So, unprepared statements, just again, listening ad hoc to what's been going on. Mr. Camello.
No.
Can't do that?
Well, you direct the comments to us. I'm sure he's listening.
Okay,
He can hear you.
that's
but
fine.
Direct it to us.
Mr. Camello said, I'm sorry, I paused, pregnant pause.
Thank you.
He made a comment at the beginning of this agenda item of that, well, not within the normal auspices, based on your experience as a HR director for how many years and all of this, while not unprecedented, that it's not typical SOP to have city council members or whatnot, get involved in interview situations of a director level position. And while I think under normal circumstances, we could all say, that makes sense. Why would you? You have an org chart, you have a tier of leadership, you have, you've trusted in that tier of leadership for good judgment and to have all of the best interests at heart and to actually have the knowledge to be able to carry out these pertinent decisions that affect, well, you're a fiduciary. You all have these decisions that have to be made that affect not only yourselves, but this entire city. So my point is, and I think the lady, I'm sorry, I don't know her name. Oh, she just said, I hope you can read the tea leaves in here. And I would say, would you please? Because they're right here. I mean, we can see them. We can read them. I don't know why you can't. The Blackburg report keeps coming up. These kinds of decisions do not need to be made immediately. What needs to be made immediately is some resignations. And I think those that have seen themselves quietly in their own heart and soul, with all of these residents, not only this evening, but in the past number of months, that have seen themselves, they know who they are. And we know who they are too. And we're not going to settle for anything less than accountability. And whatever you say that looks like, that's going to be up to you folks. Hopefully you do the right thing. Hopefully you make the right decisions. And hopefully you don't move forward with the wrong ones. Because we are paying attention. Thank you.
All right. We'll bring it back to the council. I'll close the comment period.
So I think it should be stated we're under a council manager model of government. So that being said, we're not supposed to be seeing interview questions. The residents aren't supposed to be seeing that either. That is considering California confidential information, right? So, and Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong. So hires should not be, nor would we want them to be, a public exercise per se, in my view, many other view. That being said, I was just mainly interested in the rationale around the interview panel, not questioning the qualifications of the interview panel and the thought process around it, because it is a sensitive role, an important role for the community, and we're all very conscious of that. But that was the extent of my questions.
Mr. Walsh, talk a little bit about the council city manager form of government and how it's kind of bizarre, for folks to get their hands on this. So folks just assume that we have sort of the authority to get involved in the hiring and firing of the department heads. As I understand it, our role is we get to hire you. We're not going to fire you. The city manager, fire chief. I think that's the third one, and that's it. And so we don't get the opportunity to open it up to the public, or we don't know. Some of the questions were, well, how much did you know? What did you have you met this person? No, that is not within our auspices. Correct, Mr. Walsh? Talk about that a little bit.
That's all correct.
Mm-hmm.
You're the policy makers in this instance, and it's kind of like, in the context of, the traditional form of like the way people think about government, you're kind of the legislative, policy making body, and then the executive kind of executing your policy decisions is the city manager, and the city manager form of government. And then my role obviously is as the attorney. I'm your attorney. I work with Mr. Camello, but I serve as attorney to the council. And so Mr. Camello and myself are hired and at-will employees of the council. And then under your code specifically, you also designate the fire chief as being appointed by this body. What we do have in our municipal code, and this isn't all that common, to be honest with you, but we do have this provision that says that any appointments are subject to ratification by the council. So that's the action that's before you tonight. I did have one just note for the council's benefit. Our labor attorney did have some non-substantive changes to the contract that I'm planning on implementing with Mr. Camello. If the council likes, I can walk you through them. I assure you they are non-substantive. They're essentially things like clarifying language or things to protect the council. If you want me to walk you through those.
Please do that. I know that that was set forth by Mr. Bradley. Told me that you had some comments to make regarding this contract.
Right.
I don't know what we'll do with it, but I think you should walk us through it.
Sure,
please.
I'll walk you through that. So in section 2, that's the term of the contract that says when it's effective. There was a typo in that. It said that it was effective January 19th, 2026. Obviously, that's passed. So we clarified that the contract is effective as of the date of the latest signature between the employee or Mr. Camello, and that the initial employment date is April 13th, 2026. The next change is in section 4C under severance. There was language that said that upon termination, without cause, the director is entitled to 3 months base salary as part of the severance. We changed that to say eligible to receive, because there are certain circumstances where that wouldn't be the case. It said that no time served after notice to the director is included as part of the severance pay. We just changed time served to time worked. That's a clarifying change. that and it says eligibility for severance payment is expressly conditioned upon director's execution and non-revocation where applicable of a written agreement for waiver. So, we added where applicable just to make clear that that wouldn't be applicable in every situation. In section 5, we clarified that it lists her her salary schedule. We clarified that it's annual salary, and that will be payable in pro rata installments. It didn't say pro rata, just to be clear that that's what was going to happen. Under performance review, it says city manager shall evaluate the performance by April 13th, 2027. We added approximately so that we had some flexibility there. Under CalPERS, it lists what her benefits are. We said that it's subject to applicable law, just a technical change. And we clarified that she will have receive 5 days of executive leave and 5 additional days of executive leave awarded each July 1st. And we clarified that floating values and executive leave have no cash value at separation, so you wouldn't be able to cash those out when she leaves the city. And lastly, under professional development and training, it says that the city shall pay for annual training memberships to essential professional associations, and we added as determined at the discretion of the city manager within available budgeted funds, and that's it. So they're not substantive. They're just clarifying to make clear where we do have some flexibility.
All right. Questions?
Yeah, I wanted to recognize some of the public comment around the Blackberg study. I know that is something, it's lots of valuable information there. I've read it front to back, and this position is not, like, as far as I can recall, anything that there's any possibility of not having or changing or anything like that. So I do see that as different. I know it is an important position. On paper, from resume, this candidate does look excellent. My thing is that if we could just write in the announcement, just make that little thing that this person is appointed when ratified, or however you say that eloquently, that would make all the difference to me. But I'm excited to welcome this person to town, and I would certainly support the appointment.
Others?
No, I agree with Vice Mayor Deasy. Everything she said, and just as a side note, I know Santa Clara, where this candidate came from, well-run city, well-regarded in the area. I know some folks who work there. Everything speaks very highly of her.
Mr. Carmelo, and Mr. Walsh, so we have one of the panelists here. I'm not sure if one of the panelists would be interested in having a conversation with us about this person without getting into a level of detail. I've had a personal conversation with the panelist. Mr. McCann is who I'm referring to, and I have absolute full faith in his ability to assess, given his long tenure as a planning director and as a city manager. He may not feel comfortable with that, but I don't know. Is that a no? Or is that?
I'm not opposed to Mr. McCann giving his impressions of the person, not getting into the interview process and the details of it.
All right. And I don't know if Mr. McCann feels comfortable with that, given his, I don't know. It's up to him. And I apologize in advance for not letting you know that, but here we are.
Well,
We did have a conversation.
Sure.
General impressions.
Yeah. I'm not shy, and I was thinking about popping up anyway, so
Okay.
thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Anil. So what I can tell you is that I have, in my career in the city manager part, which is 20 plus years, had the occasion to hire probably dozens of department heads and mid-managers, including at least a half a dozen planning directors. And if I had the opportunity to hire Ms. McHale, I would. I think she's quite good. She was a standout in my estimation when I looked at the initial group of candidates. Just to correct one thing, there were almost 24 applications filed and 10 that were identified as potential. And out of that 10, we narrowed it down to the 4 that Mandy mentioned. And Ms. McHale instantly caught my eye, both her writing style, her background, her education, all spot on. She's presently in a larger community, but she spent 10 years in a medium-sized, smaller community that has great affluence, great interest in their community, very engaged. So she's got 10 years of experience that I think will suit her quite well here. The questions that were asked were culled from probably 30 that our professional recruiter developed for us to look at, and us included me. So I looked at those questions and selected the ones that I thought were probably most revealing and certainly most important for our community. So questions about infill development, questions about familiarity with CEQA, questions about familiarity with historic review, familiarity with current housing law, which is critically important here, and Ms. McHale has excellent grasp and involvement in that. Also, kind of soft skills, questions about community engagement and communication and integrity, which she sailed off the charts on. So to me, there's no doubt that she can do the job, and I think she'll do the job extremely well. The panel, I don't think you could have selected a better panel. I'm not saying anything about myself, but I have familiarity with what's going on here and some of the qualities that one needs to be successful. Maya DeRosa, I think you guys know that she did a very good job. Probably not beloved by everyone, but that's a tough position. And then Scott is a very current and very accomplished planning director in Sonoma County. So folks, I think that panel knew their stuff. And then the last thing is that in my experience over the years, there are many different ways to put an interview panel together. And the one that we followed is a very, very typical, very tried and true process. It's highly unusual for the city council to be involved in the selection or to have the candidate before you. Most candidates would drop out. They'd say, I'm not doing that because of privacy and issues and concerns about their other position back home. But to have a professional staff to do that, and then ultimately for that interview panel to make a recommendation to the city manager, and it's the city manager's decision.
All right, thank you for that. Sure. Ms. Camilla, anything else to add?
No, I think...
You were another panelist, of course.
Well, typically what I would do is after there's an initial subject matter expert panel, we would typically have department head
I should say you interviewed her. You weren't a panelist, you interviewed
Yes, I did the final interview.
I misspoke.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Back to the council. What say you?
I'll make a motion to ratify the appointment.
Second.
Mr. Bradley, there is a motion to ratify the appointment, and there's a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Walsh, anything else for the good of the order here? All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrick?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy?
Yes.
Councilmember Spoterato?
Yes.
Mayor Dohring?
Yes. All right, welcome aboard, Ms. McHale. Can't wait to see you. All righty. Okay. We continued, let's see, where are we? Let me make sure I'm not moving
13.2.
ahead. That's what I thought. I know we continued 13.1. And so we are to, we'll have to make another motion in about 10 minutes, but we are at 13.2. All right. Mr. Mel, you want to introduce the item or introduce Ms. Kellogg and have her introduce the item? I don't know who's going to do this one.
I can do it real quickly.
Okay.
So, as you know, we have had a long-term partnership with Auton St. Helena. We have given some city funds to the project previously. This is a project that will generate, I think, 41 units in the city of St. Helena. It's a first project really of this size, and we hope that there'll be many more. The request was for over $2 million, approximately $2.2 million. Staff recommends 1.5 because we have just under $2 million in our two funds. I just want to make clear, though, that that's not, we're not necessarily at staff level anyway, that should not be seen as not supporting their full request. We also want to point out that the amount of money that they receive from the city will impact positively, potentially negatively, their ability to get matching funds. So it's really important that the city council consider that aspect of it in a competitive way. With that, I'd like to ask Jen to come forward if she wants to make a comments, and actually let her make a presentation and go from there.
All right. Ms. La Liberté, welcome.
Okay,
Sorry for the long wait.
Oh, no, there's still people here.
Yeah.
Good evening,
Good
Mayor
evening.
and council members and city manager. Thank you for the overview. I just want to acknowledge that we have our colleague from Burbank Housing here, Lauren Fury. And,
Welcome to democracy.
Our town, St. Helena, has been working on this project since 2016. A lot has gone into securing the land, identifying a development partner, designing a project, getting through entitlements, and now we are getting to the nitty-gritty, which is the part where we assemble the funding and financing for the project. We are going to be competing statewide for funds and for tax credits, and the tax credit allocation committee will evaluate our application in a field of applications. So it's really important to demonstrate that the local jurisdiction is invested in the project. Having a 2 in front of that number versus a 1 will make a difference. So I just want to impart that on you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
$1.99999. It's not going to cut it, Mr. Mello, apparently.
And I just also want to say that.
How does that work, though, in your mind? So let's talk about this because it's a weird issue.
Yeah.
Explain to me how we give you money that we don't have yet.
What we're asking for today is a commitment.
Okay.
And
I want to understand that more. Yeah.
And to be reflected in a resolution and then a letter that we will help prepare for the city manager's signature to the tax credit allocation committee. In addition to that, we noted in the staff report other local financial commitments from donors. You are a very, very fortunate community to have so many generous private donors. Without that, this project probably would not be able to go forward. But because we do have such generous donors, Burbank, our partner, is now ready to commit sufficient dollars to getting our building permit, which means preparing our construction drawings and also preparing our tax credit allocation application, which is due in July.
Explain to me a little bit more about, I understand what you said, a 2 would be better. Aren't we at the 2? We're actually at the 2.6, as I understand it. Does some part of our funding not quite hold muster or not count? You know, we we've waived, I guess, fees of 1.1 million, and then we're talking about an additional 1.5 million. Do I have that right, or I'm
You've
not
committed
getting it?
to paying fees for 1.1 million, yes.
Okay.
So we're asking for an additional 2.2 million. So
Okay.
I guess I misstated it. A 3 instead of a 2 would be better.
I see.
But
Do I hear
the
4?
the point is that other
I understand.
jurisdictions are going to be committing 5 million, 10 million to their
No, I understand
projects.
it. I understand it.
We don't have, unfortunately, I don't think the county's fund is going to be available to us. So
Yeah, I
we're
saw
kind
that.
of limited in terms of what our options are.
All right. Okay, any initial questions? I asked a few clarifying questions. I want to take time to open it, but if you have Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to understand the amounts that are in the funds. Actually, and so let me go ahead and ask my questions because I'm probably wrong somewhere, so you can tell me where I'm wrong. So the way I looked at June 2024, the financial statements, and I had 2.83 in the affordable housing, 1.4 million in Measure E, which came to 4.23. I understood that like 1 or 1.2 was allocated, so that got me to 3. But then I think money should have been coming in from since then from hotels. So like I don't know, 3.5. So where am I off? And how much money is are in those funds?
Just going to request Director
Yeah.
Kellogg.
What did you mean money from hotels? What hotels are we talking about?
I thought that isn't there 1% from hotels
Measure the
continually
E?
go
Yeah.
into?
There's a
that?
TOT.
Yeah, that TOT. Okay, that's what I thought you were meaning, so I just want to clarify. Ms. Kellogg.
Yes, sorry. So I think you're referring to the AB 1600 report, which is as of June 30th, 2025. And those balances at the very bottom actually include committed funds that have already been loaned out. So they're long-term receivable amounts in there. And so those amounts are not cash on hand, nor are they available for us to use for any purposes. They're actually some permanent loans that we've already authorized to our town, St. Helena.
Okay. So so where I got it was from the 2024 audited financials, right? And I looked at the statements there. Is that the
Yes.
wrong place to
Yeah,
look?
that's going to include what the committed funds are as well too, because it's not just looking at what's unrestricted in
Okay.
the section that you look at in the audited financials.
Okay. Thank you. So there's more, basically there's more restricted than I was sort of calculating.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
The balances I provided in the staff report, those were the unrestricted funds, but then it also does take into consideration that we've already committed the 1 million to our town, St. Helena, for paying impact fees on their permits.
All right, but excellent question. Let me open it for public comment. I'll take public comment on the item.
Hi, my name's Michelle. I actually spoke, I didn't know that you were Jennifer. I have reviewed the project and the plans, and I want to say how much I appreciate what our town, St. Helena, is doing for our town. And this is truly what we need in this town, 100%. So I would just support what we can do to provide what they need to make this project a reality. And this project, the way it's designed, the way it works for the community, the people who live there, the in and out, the exits, the community space in the middle, it just makes such sense for people who work here to live here, to watch their children play while they're doing their laundry. It's humane, and I think it's a really beautiful project, and our town really needs this. So I just fully support it.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Dohring and members of the council.
Good evening to you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Ruben Galvan. I'm a field representative with the North Coast States Carpenters Union, Local 751, which covers Napa County. I'm here to talk about the Fountain Street Affordable Housing Project and why strong labor standards need to be built into this project as a condition to the loan. Strong labor standards mean workers are paid fair wages and have access to health insurance for their families so that they don't have to go to work sick or hesitate to take their kids to the doctor because they can't afford the bill. They create opportunities for apprentices enrolled in state-accredited programs to gain on-the-job training and learn skills that will last a lifetime. And they ensure real labor compliance, making job sites safer, accountable, and free from exploitation. Without these standards, too often we see the opposite. We see bad actors misclassifying workers, denying apprentices real training opportunities, and in the worst cases, wage theft. These practices hurt communities, hurt workers, they hurt their families, they hurt their community, and they have no place in St. Helena. And I think it's worth asking, how can we call this affordable housing if the very people building it can't afford to live in it? But when labor standards are strong, everyone benefits. Workers who earn fair wages spend that money locally, supporting small businesses, restaurants, and services right here in town. Apprentices trained on these projects help build a skilled workforce that's training the local community and economy for years to come.
Bless you.
And projects built under proper oversight are safer, higher quality, and built to last. Affordable housing is a critical need, but it should never come at the expense of the people building it. By making strong labor standards a condition for the loan, we can ensure this project lifts up workers, supports families, and invests back into St. Helena's community and economy. I urge you to make this standard central to the Fountain Street Affordable Housing Project for working families and the entire town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can we have a motion to extend to 10 p.m.?
I don't know.
I'll make a motion to extend to 10 p.m.
We have a motion. Is there a second to extend to, did you say 10? We really never extend to 10, but no, we'll extend to 10. We may have to.
I second.
We may have to deal with our closed session at another time. There's a motion and a second to extend till 10. It requires a unanimous vote. Ms. Spataroto?
Yes.
No, go ahead. Sorry. I was
That's
just
okay.
teasing. It requires a unanimous vote. And I may not, so we'll see. Go ahead. I'm getting tired. Go.
Vice Mayor Deasy?
Yes.
Councilmember Barrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Spataroto?
Yes.
Mayor Dohring?
Yes. All right. Welcome. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Again,
Late night. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, go ahead.
It's not my first late night city
All right.
council meeting. Again, my name's Lauren Fury. I'm with Burbank Housing, developer based out of Santa Rosa. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for extending the meeting twice to allow for this discussion to happen tonight. And I wanted to address a couple of the things that came up in your discussion. So one of the reasons that we're asking for the full $2.2 million commitment up front is because the Tax Credit Allocation Committee awards projects based on a tiebreaker score. And that tiebreaker score is, again, essentially how many local government private donor sources do you have compared to your total project cost. And so it literally is every single dollar makes us much more competitive. And because St. Helena is a rural jurisdiction, we don't compete in the northern region, meaning we don't compete with other Napa-based or Sonoma-based projects. We compete with projects throughout the state that are also rural jurisdictions. And it is a very, very fierce competition given the state of federal financing and the lack of state financing in recent years. I won't get too much into the logistics, but very quickly, we could accept a commitment for $2.2 million, close on 1.5 when we start construction in early 2027, if we are awarded, and then the following remainder, $700,000, could be closed on when we convert to perm financing after construction completes, which would be roughly late 2028 if we were awarded this summer. So again, thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate your consideration on this matter.
Thank you for your work in this area. This is one of the most critical projects. It has beef. It's 39 plus 1. I mean, it's a critically important project. It's located in a great place. Do give me the other side of the equation, Mr. Camillo and Ms. Kellogg. What is it? I kind of like that little nuance where you put the part of it up and then you get the second part later.
Yeah, I think that's-
walk me through the concerns that we should have and oversight over those funds and making sure that we're using those funds for having enough if something were to come up or we have other things already in our, like a housing strategy, for example.
Yeah, I think the nuance that she mentioned, and by the way, Jennifer had explained that probability to me earlier, so I neglected to mention that, so thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I think that's a good strategy. I feel very comfortable with committing 1.5 now and committing the whole amount now,
right.
with 1.5 initially and 700 later on. I did express concern to Jennifer that I didn't want to give the whole amount that we have in a balance right now because we want to develop a housing strategy. We may need money for that, and also we may need to explore some other projects within the city that maybe with some other partners. And so I think this new version, if you will, I think would be much more comfortable.
Ms. Kellogg, for my edification, what is the typical flow of funds into the Measure E fund throughout the year, or both funds actually, but I know Measure E is probably more predictable.
Yeah, Measure E is definitely more predictable because that's on our TOT. On average, we're getting about $300,000 a year going into that fund. On the affordable housing side, that one fluctuates quite drastically because of it's based on housing activity. So last year, for example, we received $57,000, but I believe the year before was quite a bit higher because we had some pretty large permits that came in. So it's very fluctuating. But the Measure E is pretty consistent.
All right. A question was raised about labor standards and folding them into various contracts. Mr. Walsh, that is not before us and probably not appropriate to be, I mean, the public comment is appropriate, but
Sure.
When does that, if the council decides to explore that in a little bit more detail, when would that occur, if at all?
When I've seen that come up, it is basically council has given guidance in that area as part of the kind of direction on the loan documents. I would say that's a cost, right? There's costs associated with that if they're not, if Burbank and our town, St. Helena, aren't factoring that into their kind of their numbers. It would be a challenge to come in later in the process and say, and we want you to do these additional things.
Okay. One of the issues that came up is, a statement was made that carpenters would not be able to afford this. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if I accept that. I mean, it's 100% affordable project.
Correct. And it's with
not
tax
sure.
credits, a minimum of 40% of the units must rent at below 60% of your area median income. So that's considered very low. So it's going to be a mix of very low and low income units, 100% affordable.
All right. What is the other comments, the direction of council with the more nuance, the full commitment, but 1.5? I don't know how you said that. Maybe say it again for me so that we have direction. Do you understand? I mean, I have an idea. Maybe you can repeat that again as to what exactly we would be doing. The entire amount, 2.2.
Committing 2.2 million that
you.
would be dispersed in, chunks, in those two chunks.
Okay.
So you would commit 1.5 at construction financing, construction closing.
Okay.
And then an additional 700 when it converts to permanent financing.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. That's what I thought. I just didn't have those words.
Okay. Thank you, Ethan.
All right. What do you need from us, Mr. Camillo? Is there direction by this council?
Yeah.
There's a resolution.
Okay.
And so
Is that-
you would move to approve the resolution revising the 1.5 million to 2.2 because the 1.5 is in there right now. And then I think we'll work with our town, St. Helena, to draft the commitment letters consistent with your direction on the construction perm financing.
So moved.
I second.
Motion by the mayor, the second by Mr. Barrick.
Mayor Dohring,
Yes.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Councilmember Spadarato,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Looks like we're on to item 14. City Council reports for our various duties with other bodies in the county. Any reports? Anybody? All right. Then we'll bring it to a close here. Anything else, Mr. Camillo, before we adjourn to, we only have a 20-minute closed session. We may decide to hear out part of the closed session. I think the litigation one first, maybe, but we'll talk about that in closed session. We can only go to 10 o'clock, so we're limited by our rules. Anything else to add other than that, Mr. Camillo? Sorry, I'm just rambling here.
No, I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor, that on Saturday, some of us attended the wonderful event that was organized at the Native Sons Hall. I'm so sorry.
There's a background noise.
Yeah, I apologize. Yes. I just wanted to acknowledge the hard work of staff as well as several members of the community. There were several groups that collaborated on the fundraiser that occurred at the Native Sons Hall on Saturday. I really, really appreciated the event. It was nice. It shows the community can come together. I would encourage, in fact, the community to join the various groups that volunteered, including the Federated Women, the Rotary, and the Native Sons, obviously as a host, and the Odd Fellows. Carolyn Palmisano, thank
That's
you.
all right.
And Jean Mary Wolf had an excellent job, along with our own director, Sylvester, in putting that together. I just also want to point out that today's event went very well at the park. The train ride, for those that experienced it, including my wife and her cousin, they enjoyed it immensely. And of course, the next event on the 150th anniversary celebration is the parade that Chief Sorensen is in charge of, along with the Director Sylvester, and that's coming up on April 25th.
All right. Others wishing to make any comments? I'm glad you brought that up. I thought it was a very well run. Thank you, Ms. Sylvester, and to all the nonprofits that were involved in that. It was a beautiful event, well done, well organized, and yes, the dynamic duo is doing their thing, so we're looking for more to come. Happy 150th. We'll adjourn to our closed session.